All sports, all the time.
There's heroes and there's legends. Heroes get remembered. Legends never die.
This is the Spoken Podcast.
Hold your ears, folks. It's showtime.
I'm your host, Lance Twidwell.
Man, that kid, he can ball, man. He can ball.
Touchdown, Kansas City!
Patrick freaking Mahomes, baby!
Let's talk some sports, because that's what we're here to do.
You are tuned in to The Spoken.
This is the Spoken Podcast. I'm your host, Lance Twidwell, here inside the Starcade Media Studios with my guy, Trevor Twidwell.
What's good?
Episode 256 is in full swing, full motion. We're so happy to be here with you and for you to be here with us, whether you are live streaming, podcasting, or YouTubing, whatever the hell you're doing, however the hell you're here. We want to thank you so much for taking the time to be with us in this time, as we have a great show for you guys today. I can promise you that. It is a lot to get to, guys, a lot to talk about. We have missed you guys. We know it has been a couple of weeks since we have been here. You guys know that we took last week off for a lot of reasons that I had put in a previous video. Trevor was not there with me, but I put that out there, and we felt that it was good reason for us to do so. We took the week off, but we have missed you guys, and we're so happy to be back with you guys. We hope that you guys have missed us as well, because I don't know if you can smell it, Trevor, but it's been kind of smelling nasty in here, kind of like a dynasty. You know, it's a little stinky in this bitch. The Chiefs are now a dynasty, in case you guys forgot or missed, over the last 2 weeks of what's taking place in the NFL world. I don't know if you guys have been watching your televisions at all, watching the telly, as our guy Britt Chief would tell us. But, yeah, the Chiefs won their third Super Bowl in 5 years, and we haven't gotten to really talk about that. We didn't get to do a celebratory show with our guy Big Book. Trevor and I were too busy celebrating, if you will, as I'm sure most of you guys are doing as well. But we want to thank you guys for chiming in back with us, because we're back here to do a little bit of that. First and foremost, I tell you guys at the top of every single show, and I'll tell you at the bottom of every single show, if you've not already done it, go to our YouTube channel, hit like, subscribe, and notify, so you can be a part of everything we do each and every week. But most importantly, guys, get in the chat today. As we do the live stream, we have this segment called Speak It, where we give you guys the platform, the opportunity, whatever it takes, questions, comments, or concerns you guys have, you guys can drop it into our comments, and we will get to you guys, and we will get to you guys and give you guys our thoughts, opinions, reactions to what you guys have to say as authentically and as efficiently as we possibly can. So go ahead and do that. We've had a ton of people already do it. We know a lot of other shows do that as well. We're going to continue to do that, because we've been having an absolute blast having conversations with you guys on the side during the show. Whatever it is, we've been having an absolute great time, and we know there was already people lining up in the chat before the show even started. So you guys have been chomping at the bit, and I get it, because I have been as well, guys. It's been a long time. It feels like a long time, and I'm really excited about this. But first and foremost, Trevor, how the hell are you doing, man? Super Bowl Sunday was a couple of weeks ago. We haven't had football now for back-to-back weekends. It feels weird, but for back-to-back off seasons, we have been able to relish and enjoy the victory of a Chiefs Super Bowl championship. How's it been for you so far, man?
Man, I mean, you can't ask for much more. I mean, this is a championship city right now, man. This is back-to-back is something special, something I never ever even fathomed I would ever experience here in this city of any sport. This is something that only select few cities have really been able to experience. Like I said, in any sport, going back-to-back championships is a special thing, and it's going to go down in history as an extremely special moment here. I know we're working on bringing in another one back to back, but this one is one to remember. Been definitely just. I'm not trying to become used to it either. I'm trying to keep that like you said, that scent, that special aroma of winning in another offseason, adding some jewelry to the mix. So yeah, man, I'm enjoying it. I'm glad my kids were able to see another one here. They've been able to see 3 already in their lifetime, so those spoiled little brats don't even understand what's going on and entirely. But I'm glad I'm able to enjoy it with them and you guys and my family and my close friends. This city is, outside of a few things, trying to spoil the greatness and the happiness that this brings to a city. It couldn't have been enjoying it anymore, man.
Yeah, couldn't agree more, man. I appreciate you filling us in on that. And since the Super Bowl, guys, you know that there's always something that's special that follows a Chiefs victory, in particular, a Super Bowl victory. And it's our producer, 𝚂𝙿𝙾𝙺𝙴, I would say maybe his best piece he's ever put out there. Let's go ahead and throw that little poster out there real quick, Trevor. In case you guys have missed it, Red Tribe Cinema has dropped a new video called "The Kingdom Strikes Back to Back Showtime," and it's
incredible.
I watched it yesterday, and it's 23 minutes long. So you think, man, that's gonna be. I'm going to have to really dedicate some time, but I promise you what Clay does with his videos is he sucks you into where you're not really aware of the time. It's kind of like if you go to the Hollywood casino and you don't really know what time it is. It doesn't matter because everything around you is money. That's what it feels like watching a Red Tribe Cinema video, and this is about as money as it gets. The poster alone is fantastic. I wanted to play a clip for you guys, but I wasn't going to do that to Clay. I want you guys to watch it in its entirety. I don't want to give you guys a teaser. I felt like this poster alone would be good enough.
Copyright reasons. We might get sued.
Don't want to get sued by the old Windler, the old Swindler. But because of the fact he's our producer and everything, man, whenever I get an opportunity, and he's a great friend of ours, whenever I get an opportunity to spread the love for his shows and what he does, because it's an absolute cinematic masterpiece. Whenever he drops a new video. And my niece and Trevor's daughter, Scarlett's his biggest fan. So we definitely feel inspired in this family to promote the work of great 𝚂𝙿𝙾𝙺𝙴. So if you guys get a chance today at some point, go to YouTube, go check out Red Tribe Cinema, and check out The Kingdom Strikes Back to Back Showtime, baby. I'm telling you guys, it's an absolute blast. And I want to tell you guys at the top of the show because I felt like that deserved a lot of attention. So we know that we're sitting here basking and enjoying it on what this Super Bowl victory means to us. As I've said on this show several times, and I've said it in my private life, and Trevor and I, we were celebrating with the rest of our family after the Chiefs Super Bowl. We naturally start to rank these, where which one meant the most, which one did I like the most, which one did it mean the most to me, and which one was the hardest to overcome, and those are all fun conversations to have. But I've always said that no matter how many of them happen, I'm going to cherish every single one of them as if it was the only one we've ever experienced because of how hard this is to accomplish. I mean, we are of the belief that the Chiefs are going to win at least one more in the Mahomes era. We are of that belief.
Yeah.
I believe they're going to win a number more Super Bowls in Patrick Mahomes' career because he's just getting started. These are just now his peak years that are to follow this 2023 season. And this team, and we're going to be talking about this a lot today, how this team's going to continue to get better and better than what they've been over the last two seasons when they've won the last two Super Bowls. And and despite all that, guys, I relish in this and I bask in this because as we were talking to my niece and Trevor's daughter, about being 10 years old and trying to envision seeing 3 Super Bowls before the time you're even in junior high school. I mean, that's got to be just nuts to think about. Where Trevor and I, we're in our 30s and we're sitting here now just finally starting to enjoy that. And trust me when I say I'm lucky as hell to be a part of it now at this time in my life, this age and time, but to know that it's finally happening, I will never take it lightly. So I hope you guys understand that when we have these conversations that we're about to have today, it's all based upon that I want to continue to experience those. It is not because of the fact, and I feel like I have to say this every offseason because I know I'm almost always public enemy number one when it comes on Twitter, when it comes to social media, when it comes to what I put out there. A lot of times it gets viewed and transpired as Lance is trying to tell the Chiefs what to do because he thinks he knows better. No. In fact, it's the contrary. I know I don't know better, but that still doesn't mean that we don't have opinions here. And we're going to have a lot of opinions here today. And I hope
it's the fact that you don't know better and you expect them to know better and you feel like they're not doing better.
Right.
That's the thing.
And there's a lot of good opinions out there, Trevor, which is why, and I wanted to make sure and mention this as well. We have a great guest today, guys, that I want to put out there. DMAC Wakefield from the Kingdom Cast is going to be joining us. He's been on the show before. One of the most articulate dudes out there. Really love his breakdowns. He's got some opinions himself that him and I may not agree on, which is actually why I wanted to put him on the show today, because he's got some thoughts and opinions on how this team can move forward and continue to get better. And I have mine on as well. And if you guys don't follow me on Twitter, I put this wish list out there, Trevor. We can go ahead and throw that on the screen. This was my Chiefs offseason wish list. And it's a very simple list. I know it looks like a lot of stuff, but this is going to be about as many. There's going to be twice as many transactions of this offseason than what I even put on here. But I put at the top, extend Chris Jones, tag and trade L'Jarius Sneed, trade Sky Moore for a day 3 pick, trade Kadarius Toney for any pick, cut MVS, restructure Patrick Mahomes, restructure Jawan Taylor, extend Creed Humphrey, extend Trey Smith, extend Harrison Butker, sign notable veteran free agent wide receiver, sign depth piece wide receiver, re-sign Drew Tranquill, re-sign Nick Allegretti, re-sign McCole Hardman, and I don't know if you can see at the bottom of the screen, but I also put re-sign Tershawn Wharton. That sounds like a lot of demands, but again, guys, this is not out of the realm of not only possibility, but very much how these off seasons go. And, a lot of people ask me, well, how the hell are the Chiefs going to afford to do all of this? Well, I'm glad you asked. Trevor, let's go ahead and put that next one up there as well when it comes to the salary cap savings. So I also put this tweet out there yesterday as well. Patrick Mahomes currently has a 2024 cap hit of $58.6 million. By converting all but his $1.21 million vet minimum and his $34.9 million roster bonus to a signing bonus, it would reduce the cap hit to $23 million. That's essentially a $36 million difference. That would give the Chiefs $36 million in cap relief. Then, if you cut MVS, that would save the Chiefs an additional $12 million. So then you're looking at $48 million right there. Converting Jawaan Taylor's base salary into a signing bonus would save the Chiefs up to $12.6 million as well. So just in those three moves alone, and those aren't the only moves the Chiefs can make to save money. They can either restructure or cut Justin Reed. I don't think either one of those are going to happen. They let Tyrann Mathieu play out his contract. I'm fully anticipating they're going to let Justin Reed play out his, because Justin Reed has been a good piece to the equation for this defense, just like Tyrann Mathieu was. I think they're going to let him play that out. But that is an option. It would save them roughly around $6-7 million if they were to cut Justin Reed. They can also try to restructure Joe Thuney. The problem is that they do that, his 2025 cap hit I think is around $32 million, and I don't think they want that to be the case at 33, 34 years old. They could try to restructure Travis Kelce, but they kind of already did that last year. These are the three most realistic options for me, and the biggest reason why is because Patrick Mahomes is already going to do this. There's been multiple reports from Dan Graziano, several other ESPN guys, FS1 guys that have been reporting that it's more than likely that's going to happen because Patrick Mahomes knows, even with the cap hit or the cap going up to $255 million, which is about $11 million more than they were expecting initially, the Chiefs are going to have anywhere from $23 to $27 million to mess with anyway. But Patrick knows there's going to be a lot of guys they're going to have to sign, restructure, extend to keep this ball rolling. And Patrick's still going to get his money. So it's not going to change. It's just going to where the money's coming from and how they're going to be giving it to him. Excuse me. Now, Jawaan Taylor, I know a lot of people are like, well, Lance, you really can't ask him to take less money. Well, that's the thing. You're not actually doing that. His $60 million is still very much in play. Like, he's going to get his $60 million guaranteed of his contract for the next 3 years. It's about how you move the money around. And once that happens, like I said, they just move his money from the base salary into a signing bonus, which is very possible that they can do that. You're looking at almost $13 million. And I know MVS played a solid role in the postseason, made a couple big catches. Guys, I'm not trying to take that away from him. But business is business. And we know that MVS is not going to be worth, $13, $14 million next season. He's just not worth that money.
Right.
So the Chiefs need to be able to cut their losses, cut their ties. They got 2 years out of MVS. He helped them win 2 Super Bowls. Congratulations, but the Chiefs need to cut ties with him. He'll be 30 years old next season. I can't imagine he's going to have a breakout year at 30 years old when he didn't in his previous 7 seasons in the NFL. I think you know what MVS is. You can get an upgrade for him while saving a substantial amount of cap money as well. I think those 3 moves need to happen, Trevor. What do you think about those 3 moves, man?
I mean, I couldn't agree more. If all those things could happen, I mean, and add that much space, we're talking, maybe the ability of keeping Snead and Chris Jones possibly, or letting one of those guys go and adding, a couple nice weapons offensively. And maybe some guys to fill in spots that are needed at defense. With the most likely with the Willie Gay being gone, and a couple guys kind of looming out there. Drew Tranquill possibly maybe being a guy that we can re-sign and extend. That would open up a lot. That would add a lot of flexibility to the Chiefs spending and the our abilities to, like you said, keep the ball rolling and keeping guys that have kept that ball rolling and add guys that would keep that ball rolling even at a higher rate. So, I mean, it all makes sense. It's just, that's an ideal situation, but whether those things happen or not, that is to be seen, I guess. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, like I said, these are options, and I think that the best options are these 3. And like I said, there's going to be other options the Chiefs can go with that I could see making sense, but
Most likely, it looks like, I mean, that's Patrick Mahomes moving his money around would be the most likely.
That was the whole reason why they constructed his contract is the most unique contract in the history of sports.
Sure.
We've never seen anything like it.
10-year deal, yeah.
Where you can restructure it pretty much every single year.
Yeah.
And it's always justifiable because he's still going to make all the money he's going to make. Because what was it last year? I think his cap hit last year was the highest cap hit for any quarterback who ever won a Super Bowl.
Yeah, this was the year he hit the most.
Yeah, so that's not going to happen again more than likely.
And we won the
where he's
Super
going
Bowl.
to have a humongous cap hit like that, where they're going to continue to find ways to bring that number down, give him more extensions through. Because we know that Patrick's not going anywhere anytime soon, so they can continue to mess with the money and then give him another couple of year extensions here and there to soften the blow of all these cap hits. Technically, it is kicking the can down the road.
Sure.
But when you're in the midst of a dynasty, that is kind of how this has to go in order for you to make sense of it. And plus the fact, and Taylor Swift haters, go ahead and close yours real quick. The fact that the NFL is gaining value is why this cap numbers continue to go up.
Yeah.
And I heard our guy 𝚂𝙿𝙸𝚂𝙶 from the Chief Concern podcast make a great mention in a podcast this week with them, with JD and Marcus, where he said it's funny how the Chiefs and all the popularity surrounding the Chiefs winning the Super Bowls, Taylor Swift being attached to them now directly, they're helping up the value of the league.
Yeah, it's helping everybody.
Which also helps the Chiefs, though, because it's gaining more cap area for the Chiefs to spend more money. So it's a mutual relationship the Chiefs and the NFL have going right now, and it's a really good thing to see. So, like I said, I think these are the three options for the Chiefs to make the biggest, the most of the opportunity here for them to acquire not only the guys that are in the house right now to keep them around and extend other guys that are on contract years in 2024, but to go out there and get names or guys that we know that this team's going to need to add to continue to get better, because we know the competition is going to be out there and other teams are going to be out there and try to spend money as well. Because we saw earlier today, Ian Rappaport reported that T. Higgins is going to be franchise tagged by the Bengals. Does that mean he stays with the Bengals or they trade him? We don't know.
Yeah.
The point is, though, that these teams are going to try to do their best to dethrone the Chiefs right now. They're not going to try to waste any time. But one of the biggest pieces of conversation we know is going to be had, at least for the next few weeks, is going to be what the Chiefs are going to be doing with two notable defensive players. That is Chris Jones and 𝙂𝙸𝙸 Sneed. Now, I have told you guys throughout the season, and in particular in the postseason, that I wasn't going to really get into this conversation yet because it wasn't very relevant at the time. We knew that there was real football going on, and we needed to stay focused on that. But now that real football is over, and we know this is officially the offseason, we need to get to some of these conversations. And these are going to be uncomfortable for a lot of people because I have not seen a more one extreme to the other, Trevor, when it comes to this conversation. When it comes to who they should keep if they have to choose between one of the two, Chris Jones or 𝙂𝙸𝙸 Sneed. I don't know if you guys saw it, but and we know that the parade had a tragic ending to it all in all seriousness, but we know that there was a lot of funny clips and things that the players were doing throughout it. And one of the most notable clips in all of it was what Chris Jones said on the microphone. Trevor, let's go ahead and play that for the people.
I got on this stage last year, and I was like, run it back, run it back, run it back. But you know what? It's a 3-P! I need 3 of those things, baby. We ain't done yet. We ain't done yet. Kansas City, we will be back here next year. And for those who want Chris Jones go, I ain't going nowhere, baby. I will be here this year, next year, and the year after. 3P, 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 3P.
That was courtesy of KCTV5, by the way. I've watched that video so many damn times because I know everybody's like, well, Chris was drunk. Obviously, he was just caught up in the emotion of everything. I don't know about you guys, but I think that we've all known for a long time that Chris Jones embodies what the Chiefs are, what Chiefs kingdom is. And I think that was on full display in this because I truly believe he meant that when he said that he's going nowhere, because I truly believe that's what he wants.
Yeah.
Now, dollars and cents are going to have to make sense. We know that the Chiefs and him are going to have to talk. We know that Brett Veach has already been putting it out there that his top priority is to get Chris Jones signed and 𝙂𝙸𝙸 Sneed signed, according to reports. We know this was all of what the offseason was last year about, let's get Chris Jones signed. Let's figure these numbers out. And we know how it all went. The Katz brothers got in the middle of it. They screwed it all up. And They ended up only getting a 1-year deal out of all this. Now, I don't believe that's what's going to happen this time around. But I also find it interesting that I think that people saw this year, Trevor, how valuable Chris Jones still very much is to this defense. Yet I don't think people really understand just how valuable he is in the grand scheme of things and how he makes everybody around him better. What do I mean by that? Well, back in early January, I posted these 2 polls. Trevor, let's show the first one. I posted these 2 polls, and it said, when building your defense, what's more important what's more important to be better at? Slowing down the wide receiver 1 or sacking, pressuring the quarterback? As you can clearly see in almost 800 votes, 82% of people agreed with me that sacking and pressuring the quarterback is the more important thing to be great at or be better at. A day later, I posted a day before, I posted this poll, and it says, who would you rather see Brett Veach bring back in 2024? L'Jarius Sneed or Chris Jones? Over 1,000 votes are on this one, and 75% of them said L'Jarius Sneed. This is not going to be a L'Jarius Sneed slander fest. No. Trevor and I don't want to speak for Trevor, but Trevor and I are very much pro L'Jarius Sneed. We love L'Jarius Sneed. We appreciate everything he's done here, and I want him to get the most money he can possibly get. But guys, this doesn't make sense. You can't look at this and say, we know what's more important, but the player that doesn't play that position that makes that most important thing happen, he's the one that we want to keep, and the other guy we can let walk. And this isn't just fans. I'm not here to call out fans either. I'm actually here to call out a lot of people that are here to be the voices of our local sports networks. I'm going to place a couple clips here, guys. This is just from this week, from 610 Sports Radio. I'm going to start with the first one. This is the afternoon drive on 610 Sports Radio with 𝚂𝙿𝙸𝚂𝙾𝙳𝙴, Carrington Harrison, and Jay Binkley. Trevor, go ahead and play that clip.
I would franchise tag L'Jarius Sneed. It's $18 million. Give myself the time to negotiate a long-term deal. But I think the Chiefs are the best in the league at 3 things. I think they have the best head coach, the best quarterback, and I think they have the best 1-2 corner combination in the league. I would keep that. I would let Chris Jones go play for another team. The franchise tag is going to be around $32 million, according to Adam Schefter. That's the difference in you keeping Sneed and then going out and picking up a Calvin Ridley or maybe being in the market to go get a Mike Evans. You can do a lot of things in the NFL with $32 million and make a lot of additions to your team. And this organization over the next 2 off seasons, they're going to have to start deciding who they want to keep. A lot of those great rookie deals that they have, they're coming up. Creed Humphrey's contract is coming up shortly. Trey Smith's contract is coming up shortly. Willie Gay's deal is up. Nick Bolton. There's a handful of players. I don't think you can allocate those resources to paying a 30-year-old defensive lineman $32 to $35 million. I would let Chris Jones walk in free agency and take the compensatory pick. What would you do, Beck?
I would do the exact same. I'm not a big fan of signing guys when they hit that 30. The sentimental signings, because this would be a sentimental signing. And you've got 3 rings. Jones help you get them. I know that they're in the middle of a dynasty and they can go get more, but this team has a lot of areas they're going to have to address here relatively shortly, and they've done a great job with it. They've done an absolutely great job. Still a very young defense, youngest defense in the NFL. Sneed is a must-keep, in my opinion, because of his age and what he does and how good he is in shutting down number 1 receivers. Sneed is back with this team.
Let's say you sign Sneed to a 3-year deal. Let's say you sign Jones to a 4-year deal just based on the kind of contract that he wants. I find it hard to believe in that 3rd year we'll look at that deal as being bad for L'Jarius Sneed. It's very possible that you look back and you regret that contract for Chris Jones. You and I know how the NFL works, and once you get to 30, football is a young man's game. And if we're going to throw out a lot of money, I'm more inclined to do it for a player under the age of 30 who is going to turn 30 at the end of the deal than a player who is going to be 30 when the deal starts, and now I'm paying for 30, 31, 32, and 33. I don't know if that's good business.
Again, that was the drive from 610 Sports Radio, Carrington Harrison and Jay Binkley. Okay, so I'm just gonna start from the beginning here. I'm gonna try to just break all this down so we can try to make sense of what the narrative out there is right now in the Kansas City radio waves. 𝚂𝙿 mentions the difference in $32 million and what that would do for the Chiefs moving forward. I guess what 𝚂𝙿 still doesn't comprehend is that price point is what it would cost the Chiefs if they tagged Chris Jones. This assumption that Chris Jones is getting tagged is what I don't get from the jump, because the Chiefs clearly understand, to 𝚂𝙿's point, how much that would eat away at their 2024 cap, and how that's not why they picked up the option on Chris Jones this last week. That's clearly not the reason why they did that. That just gave them that fallback in case that was the last resort type of situation, but that's clearly not what they're trying to do. They did that to get more time to negotiate a long-term deal with Jones and his agent. If you don't think that's the case, why did they spend all of last offseason doing this very same thing? They clearly were trying to get a deal done in place with Chris Jones. And we got the numbers. It was a 2-year, $54.5 million deal, which would have paid Chris Jones around $27.5 million a year, which would have made him the second highest paid player in his position, which reportedly was what he'd wanted. When a new deal between Chris Jones and the Chiefs is inked, his cap hit will not be at $32 million.
Right.
We have to understand that, guys. That's why getting an extension is actually the right thing to do.
Spreads the money out.
Spreads the money out. Which is why when he brings up Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith and other rookie deals coming up, made absolutely no sense at all, because Jones' new contract wouldn't keep any of those potential extensions from taking place. This is what I've been trying to tell people for multiple off seasons now. People keep thinking that you're choosing between Chris Jones and another player. You're not. If the Chiefs want to spend that money, it's going to be there. I broke down 3 moves right there that would pay to give the Chiefs an additional $60 million in cap space to do whatever they want with it.
Right.
So that doesn't stop them from getting Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith extended if they want to. Because if you look at a Trey Smith extension, you're looking at $10 million a year. If you're looking at Creed Humphrey, you're looking at $12 to 15 to 16 million a year. That's 22 to 25 million total per year between those two guys. The Chiefs would still have plenty of cap space to mess with. Remember, in 2020, when the Chiefs had less than $200 in cap space and gave Patrick Mahomes and Chris Jones $580 million combined? It worked. They have a lot more money this time around. And look, I'm going to try to say this one carefully. There are a handful of people I stop everything I'm doing to listen to what they have to say about all things NFL. And Jay Binkley, or as we like to call him in Kansas City, Bink, he is absolutely one of them. I got nothing but love and respect for my guy Bink. But to hear him quantify the Chiefs potentially extending Chris Jones as a sentimental signing is an insane take. Just absolutely insane. Jones, yes, he's not young, Trevor. He's going to be 30 this summer. But he's not shown, and I keep bringing this up, he has not shown any signs of slowing down. But is clearly the second most important player on this team, and has been in all 3 Super Bowl wins.
Yeah, he's been a pillar.
They wouldn't be signing him for what he has done. They would be signing him for what he continues to do. Snead, yes, he is younger, 2.5 years younger. That's very true. But has had several more injuries. I mean, my God, Trevor, in just this last training camp alone, do you remember how many times we saw him on the field? You didn't. He was draining his knee. He was not healthy all the way into the season. And we've seen top-tier cornerbacks burn out much quicker than top-tier pass rushers. Let me just give you something real quick, Trevor.
I don't know why we do this to ourselves.
Yes, since 2013, I went and looked this up. Since 2013, Trevor, there have only been 4 all-pro, first-team all-pro cornerbacks that are older than L'Jarius Sneed right now. 3 of them are future Hall of Famers. One of them already is in the Hall of Fame. I apologize. Darrelle Revis. The other 2 was Stephon Gilmore and Patrick Peterson. And they were like 28, 29 years old. Those are the outliers. Most of the other ones, Sauce Gardner at 22, Patrick Surtain, 22.
Jalen Ramsey.
Yes, Jalen Ramsey, 24, 25. Like, they're all in the very peak of their athletic prime. And we know that cornerback, more than any other position on the defense, relies on their athleticism with a quick hip rotation, quick feet, being able to be physical with these taller receivers. That burnout happens just like a running back on the defensive side for cornerbacks. So what you're getting from L'Jarius Sneed right now is the best he's ever going to be.
Yeah.
So signing him to this, like 𝚂𝙿𝙸 says in the video or the clip about signing to a 3 or 4 year deal and that being the better option than giving Chris Jones one of those is absurd just based on the positional value alone, especially in Kansas City. Go ahead.
I'm just confused by, listen, I love L'Jarius Sneed, but you know me, every time we have this conversation on the show, I'm not a guy that pays corners, right? And you want to talk about sentimental. This feels more sentimental to sign L'Jarius Sneed than it does Chris Jones because of his story. Chris Jones has been dominant for years now.
Right.
That's a common sense move. That's not sentimental. Sentimental, I get it if you want to use that. He's been a part of this, and he's been a major part of this, and he loves the city. He's entrenched in the culture here. That's a consistent thing. That has no, sentimental is it's how we're feeling in the moment right now. This is the butterflies that we're feeling for L'Jarius Sneed. That's the sentimental part.
Right.
Because go figure, L'Jarius Sneed all of a sudden is a pillar player for this dynastic run. Now that he had his best season on a contract year,
right.
Go figure. And this is not a shot at him. I think he is a top. I think he was the best corner in football this year. But alongside him is another one of as an All-Pro second-year guy in Trent McDuffie. Alongside him, so there's no need to keep L'Jarius Sneed, especially a guy like you said has had injuries, nothing major, but has had on and off injuries with knee inflammation and things like that, and is aging himself and just had his best year in a contract year and has been a major part of this for sure. But it is. Why I just don't know why we do this to ourselves. It is far more important and makes far more sense to sign the guy that has been the dominant pillar piece, arguably the most important piece on this team in this dynastic run of these 3 Super Bowl victories outside of Patrick Mahomes and maybe Kelsey if you want to argue him. The most important guy in this defense. He is Spagnuolo's Justin Tuck. He is Spagnuolo's Strahan. He is that piece for this Chiefs defense as it was for those Giants defenses, right? And you would not replace any one of those guys in that Giants defense before you would get those guys would be the last guys on your list on that defense. Getting after the quarterback is the most important thing, and what they did to Tom Brady and those defensive lines, those 2 guys were the pillars of that defense. Chris Jones is that vital part for the Spagnuolo defense. This defense goes as Chris Jones goes. Just like the offense goes, as Andy Reid has said, with the emotion of Travis Kelce, they go as he goes, with him being the emotional leader of that offense.
Right.
That's Chris Jones on the defensive side. That's why we were able to let Tyrann Mathieu go, another guy who's a possible Hall of Famer, walk, and we continue to win. You don't think, who's better in their career, Tyrann Mathieu or L'Jarius Sneed? I know L'Jarius Sneed had an incredible year this year, but let's be real.
Tyrann Mathieu's borderline Hall of Fame player.
That's what I'm saying. Yes. So, and we let him literally walk. We let Tyreek walk. Chris Jones is not a guy you can just let walk.
Right.
L'Jarius Sneed, love him, and this is not a shot at him, but if he walks and we go win another Super Bowl, he's going to be very forgettable in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Chris Jones, you let him walk and our defensive line is struggling, we're not able to get after quarterbacks, we're going to be kicking ourselves in the ass.
And that's the point I want to make, Trevor, because the last thing I want to say on this, and then we're going to move to the next clip, is the way I see it, and it's very simple, you let L'Jarius Sneed go and you're retooling the defense. Yeah. If you let Chris Jones walk, you're restarting your defense. Like, we have to remember, this is the piece that everything has been centered around. I'm going to talk more about that in a second. But L'Jarius Sneed has been an asset. Chris Jones has been the centerpiece.
Yeah.
That's the difference here we're talking about.
Well, and
L'Jarius Sneed ain't great.
And Charvarius Ward was really good when we let him go and get paid.
Yes.
And we just beat him in the Super Bowl. You know what I mean? Like, we overcame it, and we found another guy in L'Jarius Sneed to take his place. It was a guy similar to the Chamari Connor situation that's going on right now.
Right.
Veach, Spags, they know how to replace these guys, and it all starts up front. And you can't lose the centerpiece of where the base of this defense is getting after the quarterback and causing pressures, demanding double teams, allowing other guys like George Karlaftis having a career year this year so far, better than last year's, took that next step. It's because of the attention and the dominance of Chris Jones, man. Yeah. It's really simple, bro. It's not. This is not complicated.
Then later this week we had Pete's Weenie on 610's show in the midday. It's called Cody and Gold with Alex Gold. We're gonna play this clip, and I'm gonna have some thoughts on this as well. Trevor, go ahead and roll that.
I think I'm a little bit different in how I feel about this situation because, I remember when the sky was falling, when the Chiefs traded Tyreek Hill and how their offense was never going to be the same again, which I guess in a way was true, but it didn't mean they couldn't win. And so the defense will be different, right? Like without Chris Jones, but I don't think one player is necessarily going to define what the defense can be. Is it going to be top 2 like it was this year? Probably not, but the offense is going to improve. And so say it's top 10. I still feel pretty good about that. The whole Chris Jones situation, I think he's playing a dangerous game. And really, his agents are. Like, they're playing this dangerous game where they, I think, want the most money possible. But I think Chris has to realize, like, it's not going to be as fun playing for the Carolina Panthers, right? There's an angle here where you could work with the Chiefs. They could give you a fair deal. It's not going to be as much as you can make on the open market. And you could go for the three-peat that you're already talking about. I like Chris Jones, and I'd like him to stay here, but I just don't see it happening with the current situation. Like, the Chiefs are not going to just match the highest possible offer, which is, I think, to me, what he's been, for lack of better terms, like conditioned to want here. I just think, like, Brett Veach will figure it out. I liken it to the Orlando Brown situation. Orlando Brown just wanted more and more money, highest paid left tackle, all this, whatever like that. Eventually, the Chiefs kind of called his bluff. And not only did they call his bluff, but they had a plan B ready. Like, I looked the other day at the top 200 free agents of Pro Football Focus. I wrote it up for our site. And Chris Jones, deservedly so, is number one. There's 20-plus interior defensive linemen on that list of 200. Like, if Chris Jones wants to Orlando Brown, Brett Veach is going to have his Jawan Taylor. And I'm not saying I'm in love with the Jawan Taylor contract. I'm not saying it was perfect. What I'm saying is there's going to be a plan B built in. And I think the thing that we've learned, and maybe Brett Veach has learned too, with the Brown situation, with Tyreek and Chris Jones, he doesn't like being handcuffed here. And I don't think he's going to let it happen again. And so I think Chris Jones is going to hit the open market. I think Snead's a more likely tag because the Chiefs can afford it. And I think once he does, there's going to be a team that's just willing to go farther than the Chiefs are willing.
So from the jump, Pete Sweeney goes with the lazy-ass Tyreek Hill comparison. I can't believe that I have to sit here and mention the fact that the Chiefs not only led the league in offense the season after trading Tyreek Hill, Patrick Mahomes won MVP, and then won back-to-back Super Bowl championships and Super Bowl MVPs without Tyreek Hill. And you know why? Because Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and Andy Reid on the offensive side of the ball, so losing a great offensive piece was never going to hurt this team, like, say, I don't know, losing their best defensive player. So the comparison is a non-starter at best. I don't know how we make this comparison. It's not even adequate. You can't do it. Two completely different players that play two completely different positions on two different sides of the ball.
But he's 30. You know, they forget how to play football at 30, Lance. The fall off is just detrimental.
He then goes on to say that, quote, one player won't necessarily define what the defense can be, end quote. Actually, yes.
Check the splits.
A player can and a player has when it comes to this Chiefs defense. What have I always pointed out when it comes to the Brett Veach era, and the one thing Brett Veach has always had the luxury of? Having Chris Jones to build a young, inexpensive defense around. And yes, although Veach has crushed ass on building said young, inexpensive defense, it's still Chris Jones that it revolved around. Especially where they have been at their absolute best over the last two seasons, and that's getting after the quarterback. Trevor, go ahead and throw that graphic up real quick. So this is a graphic that just came out this week per Get Up on ESPN. Chiefs defense this season with Chris Jones on and off the field.
That's crazy.
On the field, 907 plays, pass rush rate 42%, sacks 56. Off 403 snaps, 25%, only 8 sacks. That's including the playoffs. I heard, and I wish I had the clip for this because it wasn't just 6'10", man. I'm not trying to single them out. 8'10", Seren Petro was having even worse takes yesterday, where he was literally telling people that were calling in the show that the Chiefs can find guys that are 6'6" that can bat balls down, trying to say that Chris Jones, the fact he only has 2.5 sacks in his playoff career, tells you how expendable he can be. Real quick, Trevor, who's the better player, Frank Clark or Chris Jones?
Chris Jones.
Who has the second most sacks of all time in postseason history?
Frank Clark.
Yeah, who doesn't? Chris Jones. Okay. You don't think having an elite pass rusher has made it that much easier for guys like Ladarius Sneed or Trent McDuffie and the rest of that secondary to become as dominant of a unit as they have been over the last 2 years?
Or for this offense to take a slight back seat this year?
Thank you.
On the back of Chris Jones? Yeah.
And for Peter to sit here and say that he believes this defense would be a top 10 unit without Chris is so goddamn disrespectful to the player.
It's intellectually dishonest, man. I'm sorry, bro. That's intellectually dishonest.
Look at it like this, Trevor. In 2022, Chris Jones was a first-team All-Pro. Had 15 and a half sacks, had one of his, if not his best season of his career.
Right.
A much better statistical season he had in 2023, yet the Chiefs were the 16th overall defense last season. Could you imagine what they would have been without him? But see, he wasn't an All-Pro this year. The defense was better. He showed up when it mattered the most, but yet we're still trying to sit here and nitpick what he is and what he isn't to the defense. Peter then claims that it's in fact Chris Jones that's playing a dangerous game by wanting the most money, when in reality, it's been Brett Veach who's been playing with fire. Trevor, go ahead and throw that graph real quick about the players that Brett Veach has drafted. So you'll see right here, guys, the difference in the positions that Brett Veach has drafted. As you will see right here, and it's very obvious what Brett Veach has done. And this is the thing about Brett Veach and how intentional this man is when it comes to his drafts. Since 2018, defensive backs drafted 12. 5 of them in just the last 2 drafts since 2022. Defensive tackles, 4. 1 has been drafted since 2020. I mean, I could end the show right there. Because we're sitting here saying that Chris Jones is the one playing the dangerous game. How is that the case when Brett Veach has intentionally been not trying to replace him?
Right.
This is why I am both confident that Chris Jones is going nowhere and that Ladarius Sneed is not viewed as a long-term answer.
And we have, in fact, been drafting replacements for Ladarius Sneed.
Thank you.
Shamari Connor is a prototypical, similar type of guy to what Ladarius Sneed is, a hybrid safety cornerback.
I mean, think about all the abundance of resources the Chiefs have used in the draft alone at cornerback, and at best thrown flyers into the wind at defensive tackle. I mean, Trevor, if rewind it, or just do it the other way. Let's say over the last 2 years, the Chiefs drafted 5 defensive tackles. Are we sitting here talking about Chris Jones going to be a long-term answer here in Kansas City? No, because it's obvious that Chris Jones is trying to replace him. But if they're doing it the same thing with cornerback, we're sitting here thinking, well, that's just for depth. Then why isn't there trading up for guys like Trent McDuffie? Why are they spending so many resources at one position? Because they know, 1, they have to be cheap there, and 2, they know that guys like that age out quick. And Ladarius Sneed himself, I think people forget this because he's so good. People think that this guy was like the 16th overall pick. This man was the 138th overall pick in 2020. He was a 4th-round pick. This guy was a flyer, just like the majority of the guys that play that position on this team.
Yeah.
That's where Brett Veach gets his praise.
Do you think a lot of this has to do, and I think it does, and I think you will agree, I think a lot of this has to do with the way last offseason went. I think the people are a little easier now, less hesitant to say, be comfortable with Chris Jones walking away and us being without him after, him sitting out that game, that bad look, all the vitriol that was going his way. Him maybe kind of posturing himself in a negative light with the fan base last offseason, even though we just won a Super Bowl with him and how he showed how important he is once again this season. And then you combine that with Ladarius Sneed's very mild temper, quiet, doesn't say much, but just was on last week on TV publicly telling Brett, basically telling the Chiefs, pay me. If Chris Jones was on TV saying that again, how would we be acting towards him? Cut his ass. Everyone was saying that last offseason.
I'd respond this way. Then why didn't they pay Ladarius Sneed last offseason?
Right.
They couldn't?
Right.
They could have. What did I say all last offseason? If these two guys are at the same level, or you think Sneed's above him now, why didn't they prioritize him? Why did they just trade up for Trent McDuffie? Why did they just spend 5 draft picks in the last 2 drafts on DBs?
Yep.
And if that's the case, Trevor, when it comes to Chris Jones, let me ask those people an honest question. I want them to answer it honestly. Do you honestly believe the Chiefs win these last 2 Super Bowls without Chris Jones?
Hell no. We're talking about Warren Sapp. You guys gonna let Warren Sapp at 30 years old walk away? Hell no, man. Trevor, it's just football, baby. It starts in the trenches. You don't let this kind of guy walk, bro.
Since 2021, Chris Jones has led all NFL interior pass rushers and quarterback pressures with 217, which ranks 5th amongst all pass rushers over that span. The only pass rushers with more are all edge rushers in Max Crosby, Nick Bosa, Micah Parsons, and Myles Garrett. Aaron Donald has 7 fewer pressures in this span, and no other interior defensive lineman is within 45 quarterback pressures of Jones's 217.
Yeah.
The value cannot be compared.
I just want to put a real quick, John Harrison just threw out a nice little nugget. And again, this is Reggie White, but anybody that thinks Chris Jones can't dominate at 30 or older is effing stupid. Reggie White in 97 and 98 at 37 and 38 years old had 11 and 16 sacks.
That's my whole point, Trevor, is that we've seen
these guys. There's not a lot of those guys in history.
Quick.
Not a lot of guys at the interior defensive line that can dominate. Chris Jones is one of those handful of guys throughout history has been that dominant at this position.
Ironically, him and Reggie White are built the almost exact same way.
Very long arms, big hands.
And they're both versatile.
Yep. Can play the edge.
Yes. What's it? Reggie White played a lot of D end, DT. They mixed it up. Same with Chris Jones. He's been able to play the 3 tech. He's been able to do everything he's wanted to do. But I want to get back to this conversation real quick, Trevor, because I think there were some things said about Chris Jones that I think was a little personal too, and I think that a lot of times guys like Pete Sweeney are utilized as mouthpieces for the Chiefs, and it makes sense because they're it's Arrowhead Pride. You're paid to basically glorify the Chiefs, and they can do no wrong. I get that, but we're here to talk about the truth here. He also says that this is a comment that that really stuck in my craw. He said Chris Jones is almost, for a lack of better term, conditioned to want the most money.
Yeah.
Trevor, you and I both work full-time jobs. Are we not conditioned to want to make the most money at our job? Let's say, Trevor, you're the Chris Jones. And I'm going to toot your horn for a second, Trevor. We saw that you just got that big old magazine thing. Your picture was put in the magazine for the job that you have. I don't know if you want to put it out there or not. But the job that you have, you've been
recognized.
Yeah, you've been recognized for your hard work.
Sure.
Some could say Trevor's the Chris Jones of his job.
I want to
Do you not want the most money you could possibly get, Trevor, for what you do?
I got 2 kids, so yes.
Yeah, so does Chris Jones, by the way.
Yes.
But that's beside the point.
He's putting his body at risk.
His value is what his value is. And if the Chiefs value Chris Jones, they're going to get as close to that as they possibly can. May not be at the same number that some desperate team like the Panthers, like Pete Sweeney did mention in this clip, may not be the same number. But if Chris Jones sees that the Chiefs are trying to meet him halfway while still giving him, because let's be real, they both benefit off of each other. Because Chris Jones gets a chance to be a Hall of Fame player with the Chiefs. It'd be a lot harder for him to continue his career with the Panthers and continue to get that attention. So we know that he benefits off the Chiefs as well because he'll get commercials, endorsements, things like that when you're on a great team. Yeah, those things.
Yeah.
Those cool things.
Nothing more endorsing than a ring.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So Chris Jones knows that as well. That's why he also wants to be here because he knows what they benefit him.
Sure.
And that's my point in all this is that you're sitting here trying to almost make it seem like it's a unique situation that Chris Jones wants the money when every fucking player that's good at what they do wants the money. What the fuck? Like, Patrick Mahomes is like the sweetest human being on the planet. Man got $500 million. Like, you don't think he wanted that? Like,
I'll take it.
You know what I'm saying? Like, what the hell are we doing here?
Yeah.
And another point I want to make here, a couple of quick points here, then we're gonna move on because I know our guy DMAC's gonna be in a second. He compares Chris Jones to Orlando Brown and his debacle.
Yeah.
Now, y'all know, anybody that's been following me for any length of time, y'all know how much I loved Orlando Brown Jr., but even I'm not dumb enough to compare these two in overall ability and value to this team. Not to mention the fact that Brown was a rental, whereas Jones is a franchise cornerstone. This is just another lazy comparison to make in order to get the casual fan to buy into this bullshit. Then Peter finishes it off with his take by saying that if Chris Jones wants to handle this like Orlando Brown Jr., Veach will have a plan B, or rather a Jawan Taylor. So, let me get this straight. Trevor, let me make sure I'm understanding all this. Jawan Taylor replaced Orlando Brown Jr. at left tackle?
No.
Oh, no. Oh, that's right. No. Oh, that was Donovan Smith, who was in and out of the lineup all season long. And he says that Veach doesn't like being handcuffed. Would $60 million guaranteed to your right tackle, not left tackle, I might add, over the next 3 seasons be the definition of handcuffed? You're paying your right tackle, not your left tackle, your right tackle, $60 million. The Chiefs just a year ago won a Super Bowl with Andrew Wiley as their right tackle, Trevor. and then they turn around and pay $60 million to a right tackle. That doesn't sound like handcuff to you? What a horrible comparison. Orlando Brown Jr. was not replaced by a guy that just made $60 million guaranteed. And you're not going to find anybody that's going to adequately replace Chris Jones. There's no one out there. Why do you think the Chiefs have been prioritizing him over these last 2 off seasons? Because they know this man's a fucking unicorn. They know that you're not just going to let me just pull you out of there and let's just put you in there and
let's just replace Chris Jones, bro.
Let's just
do that.
That's what I'm saying about like Serene Petro saying on 18 yesterday. You can just find 6'10", 6'6" guys that can bat the ball down. So if they can replace Chris Jones, why haven't they done it?
Right.
Why haven't they tried? 4 defensive tackles, Trevor, they've drafted since 2020. 4! And none of them were before the 4th round.
Maybe we'll bring back Coburn, bring him back to the practice squad, see if he can elevate his game.
Luckily,
Chris
Trevor,
Jones levels.
Luckily, there is hope, not just from our show. You know, our brothers over there at the Chief Concern Podcast always bring it real.
Sure.
Our guy, Jason Dunn, former Chief, he brought both experience and knowledge to this conversation. Trevor, go ahead and play the video of what Jason Dunn said from the Chief Concern Podcast when it comes to Chris Jones and what he means and will continue to mean to this team when he puts it all into perspective.
Gotcha.
Chris Jones. We're not where we are. We don't have 3 Super Bowls without Chris Jones. Let me be clear. Even with Pat on the other side, Pat might have won maybe one because our offense was so dominant. They ain't winning 2 or 3 without Chris Jones. And that you got to think about the course of the year, all the things he's been able to do. Chris Jones is an absolute dominant force. I don't see us moving on. I can't see us moving on, getting something done with Chris Jones. He has to be a priority for us this year. A whole lot of people say move on from me at the very beginning of the year. If we had done that, we would have easily been home, easily, watching from the couch, hating on somebody else's team. We've been hating on somebody else from that matter. Chris Jones is making plays, getting back there. And sometimes people say, man, look, you got to be honest. There's times that he takes breaks. You know, he needs a breather. You can see that. But when Chris Jones goes, he goes. There ain't nobody better. There is no one in the NFL better than him and Aaron Donald on those things. But Chris Jones, and I do believe your brother Taser said this last night, I do believe the durability, he's been taking care of his body. He can still play at a high level for another 3 years. Easy.
Yep.
Easy to come in and make plays. So, big dog comes in, eats. He's getting all the guys on the sideline ready. Without that voice, nobody else is getting up there. Nobody else getting the rest of the defense together like that to talk to him, to fuss at him. Nobody else is doing it. That's why Andy Reid came over and hugged him and jumped on top of him like a little teddy bear.
It's a good moment.
Yeah. It's like, I hold up my daughters where they, bouncing them up. That's how you did with Andy Reid. That was good. That was a good moment. That was a good picture. Wow. Them guys hugged each other, man, just enjoying it because they understood how much it meant. Even through all the fight through the year and whatnot, they deserved that. They deserved it. They deserved it.
This is why the content creating world of the Chiefs Kingdom and the podcasting world, these are the people you need to go to because you have former players, you have people that are diligent, hardworking people that understand the value of a player, the value of what makes a dynasty, and that is why you need to be following Chief Concerns Podcast. And there's another show that you need to be following as well. It's called the Kingdom Cast. Because these are my people, people that I respect very much. They've been on Fox 4 a lot of times, and in fact, this guy that we're about to have on the show was on, I think, recently, and he absolutely blew up the spot. Which is why I say, you know what, we need to get this dude back on the show. It's been about a year now since he's been on the show. It's time that we get him back. we need to get some thoughts because I think that DMAC and I actually have a few things that we may not agree with, and that's why it's always good to talk about these things because I need to have a better understanding of what this team needs to do in order to continue to win. So without further ado, we want to give it up to our guy, the one, the only, DMAC Wakefield. How we doing today, DMAC?
What's up, Lance? What's up, Trev? How y'all doing today?
Can you hear us?
Give me one
second. Oh yeah, I can hear you. Can you guys hear me? Oh, is that bad? Uh-oh.
Can you hear us, bro?
I'm going to have the same situation we have with our people from Big Charlie's. It's a little delay. Sorry about that, DMAC. We're going to get to you in just a second. But if you can hear me, DMAC, I don't know how much of the previous part of the conversation you had heard there. And I can hear us now. Okay, let me flip my headphones around.
We're good.
So, DMAC, I want to start this thing hot and heavy, bro. Because, actually, you know what we're going to do? Sure, we're going to show what our guy DMAC had on Twitter a couple days ago that I saved because I want to talk about this. I think it's a very important part of the conversation. DMAC, you put out there that you want, and obviously I know you're one of those guys that put out mock drafts, things of that nature, and I love that about you, bro, because I think that's something I'm not very good at all, and I pay attention to people that do those things. And what you put out there was something that I thought was pretty interesting. You said, and your whole layout's great. You obviously have the Chiefs. Looks like it trading out of the first round. Then you get yourself a wide receiver first in the second round, 43rd overall. But it's the actual caption that I want to talk about. You say, resign, tag Snead, let Jones, I'm assuming that's Chris Jones, walk, sign a mid-tier veteran wide receiver, and keep Drew or Willie. Drew Tranquil, Willie Gay Jr. All right, DMAC, I need to hear your logic behind this because I'm going to be honest with you, bro. There's about 4 things right there I disagree with. People have been hearing me talk all day, so I'm not going to sit here and just reverberate everything I just said. I need to hear from you, brother. Why are you on the side that the Chiefs need to re-sign L'Jarius Sneed? What would the contract look like to you? Why would you let Chris Jones walk? Let's just start with those 2 parts right there.
Yeah, absolutely. We can start there. And I will say, so what we've been doing on our Tell the Truth podcast, Under Kingdom Cast as well, me, CJ, and DG, for those that do know us from Twitter, we had our little choose your own off season. And so we each took a scenario. My first scenario was keeping Snead and let Jones walk. CJ will be keeping both of them. DG will be keeping Chris Jones and letting L'Jarius Sneed walk. So along those lines, that's where I was kind of coming from this specific scenario. But I will say, I think that the path of Veach's offseason kind of follows along this road from this standpoint. What you have in L'Jarius Sneed is the ability to tag him at around $19.8 million. That is much more palatable than tagging Chris Jones at $32 million. So right now, his major focus should be trying to work out an extension before the new league year in which Jones would become a free agent with Chris Jones to secure him. If you're able to do that, then you have the placeholder in L'Jarius Sneed until you can extend him or keep him on that tag because 19.8, again, is a reasonable number to have for a 1-year contract from L'Jarius Sneed perspective. As this specific mock draft is concerned, though, in the scenario in which you cannot work out a scenario to bring, Chris Jones back, then from that perspective, I don't think they're going to go into this offseason and say, hey, we're going to keep this cap space around and try to, work something out with Chris Jones. I think there's going to be an offer out there, but they're not necessarily going to be held hostage by whatever Chris Jones negotiations are going to continue to progress from that perspective. So in the scenario in which he does end up getting to free agency and does sign somewhere else, which would not be my preference because I want a 3-peat, and he is your cleanest path to keeping both of these guys safe, having that 3-peat. In that scenario, being able to extend L'Jarius Sneed or use the tag as a placeholder until you can do that, somewhere in that 3 years, in that 16 to 18 to $19 million a year range, probably about 2 of those years guaranteed. So somewhere in that, $50 million guarantee type of range. Because he is 27, there is the knee concerns that we had before the year. You want to protect yourself for about 2 years from that perspective. But I think that that's where you're talking as far as extension is concerned for L'Jarius Sneed. But in this scenario, you get yourself, obviously, the wide receiver Xavier Worthy, a guy that I like specifically that can do a lot of short to intermediate things because of his speed, but specifically has the long speed to separate from guys deep to bring back the element of the offense that I think we struggled so mightily with the entirety of the season. Being able to track the ball deep, make those plays, take the top off of a defense, and allow Kelsey and Rice to continue to work underneath for the upcoming season from that perspective. Now, Chris Jenkins and Tavares Sweat, 2 guys that are incredibly good interior defensive linemen in this class. They're different flavors. Sweat out of Texas, more of their standard nose tackle, a guy that's going to two-gap from you from day one. He's 360 pounds. He can move people off the ball. He's going to be able to push that pocket, and also has a little bit of wiggle to him to get off of some of those blocks, both in the run game and a little bit of pass rush juice as well. And that kind of plays into some of those odd front things that you saw, Steve Spagnuolo implement, having Leo Chanel play a little bit more edge, having guys stand up, presenting different things to mess with protection schemes. Chris Jenkins is a little bit more in the Mike Dana, Charles Omenihu kind of vein, where he can move inside and out. You can move him from edge. You can have him kind of play an odd front defensive end, or he can move in all the way inside the 3-tech and rush the passer. He has a very good set of moves. You saw it with Michigan. He has the ability to defend the run as well. I really like him as a day 2 defensive tackle as well. So, again, if you're losing Chris Jones, you're not going to replace him. I want to be very specific about this when I say that. Chris Jones is an elite player in this game. He is going to be a future Hall of Famer. You're not going to replace his value. What you can do is replace some of the specific, kind of with young guys, talent, bring those guys in, try to develop them, and bolster what you already have in the defensive line room as of right now. And so that's kind of where I was coming from in that specific scenario. And we talked about it also in our Tell the Truth episode last Wednesday about some other big moves that I would have as far as that scenario is concerned.
Gotcha. That's perfectly said. And I have so much I want to say about this draft class you have, because I agree with so much that what you did on this, man. Like the breakdown is beautiful. I love the positions you take. I love the fact you hit the interior defensive line multiple times in a row. Because I do believe whether you keep Chris Jones or not, that's still something you need to answer, because, Turk Wharton's not a long-term answer. I don't know if Derek Notty's going to be back either. Like, there's a lot of guys that are going to be in rotation there. You're going to lose Mike Dana, who, like you said, can move in and out. There's going to be a lot of revolving situations in the middle of that defensive line. Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So you're gonna, they're gonna need to go and get guys regardless. And I love the fact more than anything that you took the Chiefs' draft totals from 6 draft picks to I believe 8 now. You had them trading out of the first. Is that correct?
Yep. Mm-hmm. And I think that's an important move for Brett Beach. Yeah, to grab a little bit more extra picks, because this is more of a lighter draft from an asset perspective. And if you have the ability, because of kind of where the quarterbacks are falling, we know about the top 3 elite guys. The fact that guys like J.J. McCarthy and Bo Nix and Michael Penix are starting to be talked about a little bit more as possible day 1 selections. Based on how free agency goes, some of these quarterback-needy teams that miss up on that top 3 may want to trade back into the first round to get that 5th-year option on one of those other 3 guys. And in that scenario, you may have the opportunity for a trade back, where is in a class last year, I don't think that those quarterbacks really materialized in a way that you could have possibly traded out of 32 if you had the chance to.
I will say this, because I think there's a better chance that the Chiefs either trade out of the 32nd overall pick or trade back or trade forward than stay. The reason I say that is because I'm one of those people that believes that offensive tackle is where the Chiefs really need to start paying attention. I think that they need to go and try to get a franchise type of guy. Now, I know in the first 15 picks, that's usually where those guys are at. The top dogs. They're usually the top 15, 20 picks. But because of what you said also about the fact there's going to be so many quarterbacks and so many teams in the first 15 picks are going to be looking to maybe try to get their franchise quarterback, that might push some of those guys back a little bit, even some of these wide receivers. And we know, according to what we're seeing, correct me if I'm wrong, this is one of those draft classes that is very heavy and deep at offensive tackle and at wide receiver, which might actually incentivize the Chiefs to say, hey, we're at 32. And the 20th overall pick's coming right now, and there's 2 tackles and 1 wide receiver we really like. Let's see if we can try to, move some picks. And this is one of the biggest reasons why I said the Chiefs need to try to trade L'Jarius Sneed, because he's at the peak of his powers right now. 27 years old, had his best season, gave up 1 damn touchdown. I think there's a really good chance this is the best that Sneed is ever going to be. And we know that he's had some knee issues. We don't know how long he's going to be what he is. So try to trade out of that now. Get a couple picks out of him. Get 8 picks. Try to move forward. Get your franchise tackle, or go get a badass wide receiver. Go get somebody that you absolutely want. You need to move forward and answer a position of need this season and seasons beyond. That's the way I think it's going to happen. So I think there's a much better chance They don't sit back at 32. We know Brett Veach, man. He loves to move the chess pieces. Do you think that's a possibility as well? Let's say they do trade a current player for a couple of picks and maybe try to move forward and get a guy like that?
Yeah, I think it's definitely possible, and I think that the way that you kind of lay it out is understandable. When I talked about specifically what it starts out with Chris Jones in this negotiating window, I think that's an important thing, because if you're able to get Chris Jones done, then the ability for you to have the avenue of either extending L'Jarius Sneed, having him play the tag, or if a team wants to blow you away with an offer for him, then that avenue to trade him for extra picks is available to you. And I think that's very much a viable strategy from the standpoint of, you know what you have as far as depth in the secondary. You know you're very good at being able to draft day 3 DBs and have them develop. I understand that, there's going to be a little bit of trepidation, and certainly what L'Jarius Sneed and Trent McDuffie combined to do from a versatility at the cornerback position standpoint is special to have two guys that can do that. But there's ways that you can kind of mold your defense around should you need to trade L'Jarius Sneed for after draft picks. And from that perspective, you talk about the depth of this class. It is a very good offensive tackle class. It is a very good wide receiver class. I think it's a very good defensive line class also in a certain respect as well. And there is a lot of aspects of there's going to be good talent at those three positions, really from the back end of the first round, in my opinion, to the top of the third round-ish from that aspect. And that means that those top 100 picks, if you can acquire extra ones of those, is going to be important. And so whether it's a trade back, obviously like the scenario that I presented, or to your point, there's a trade up. What you saw in the Trent McDuffie trade up was there's an elite player at the position of need that they felt that they had to go get, that they didn't think would fall into range, and they spent accordingly to go get him. It could be a similar scenario to that, like you talk about. There's a guy that they didn't think was going to get to X number, 24, 25-ish. And this applies even if you keep L'Jarius Sneed to a certain respect, because there's a scenario in which Chris Jones does walk. That means that you're probably going to get a compensation third pick as far as next year's draft. And, based on the compensation formula, he's going to get a massive contract. That's almost going to guarantee you an extra third round pick next year. That means that your third round pick, if you want to trade that to move up to get an elite player at offensive tackle, at defensive line, or at wide receiver, then becomes a little bit more valuable of a strategy. If you even need that, it could be a fourth rounder that you need to move up as well. So that is an understanding that Brett Veach is always going to run through those scenarios as far as that's concerned. But in my opinion, if a guy gets to 32, a guy that I really like, Tyler Guyton out of Oklahoma, I think that he could be your day one left tackle. If he gets to 32, they should stick and pick him, in my opinion, because that means that you have solved a premium position for the next 4 to 5 years, and you can keep him as long as you need to, and he's under cost control. And especially the way that the offensive line is, certain guys are going to get more expensive, certain guys are going to be aging out. There is a lot of value from that perspective. So those scenarios all come into play, but I think it all starts out with the branching of what L'Jarius Sneed and Chris Jones do from a financial standpoint as we kind of get closer and closer to this deadline of these guys becoming free agents.
We saw reports, we heard reports as well last draft that the Chiefs were trying to move up in the first round. I think it was like 5, 6, 7 spots, and no one was listening. Now that the Chiefs have won another Super Bowl, I mean, DMAC, do you think there's like this thing amongst the rest of the league where they're like, man, fuck that, we're not helping this team. We're not helping you move up and find a guy, because more likely whoever you guys are going to draft is going to end up being a baller and then help you guys continue to win and continue to this dynasty. Like, do you believe that's a thing that's going on in the league right now? Because we heard that the Cowboys shut the door on the Chiefs. The Bengals obviously did. I don't blame them for doing it, but the Cowboys, like, come on, man, you're not even in the same conference, but we heard that the Cowboys weren't listening. Do you think that's the thing that's happening? It's going to continue to happen?
I think that it certainly is a thing, and I think it's a compliment to what the Chiefs have built, that it is a reality of the situation. I don't think that teams necessarily want to help us after we've dominated the league that we have over the last half decade, and certainly not after back-to-back titles. Like I said, it's a compliment, though, to be in that position. All things considered, it does only take one team to want to trade back or trade up in a certain scenario if a team really feels like their franchise quarterback is waiting for them at 32, and you can still make that deal. And that's why Brett Veach is always going to do his due diligence to see if it materializes. But certainly last year they wanted to kind of trade up to try and get one of those wide receivers. Nobody necessarily wanted to bite on that, and it is what it is. They still were able to get the job done with a great rookie draft class all the same. And sometimes that's the way it is. If you're going to be at the top of the mountain, you have to deal with top of the mountain problems. And that's the reality of the situation. But Brett Veach has done a very good job at navigating that reality, certainly over the last half decade, and I expect him to be able to do so in this draft as well.
We know that the Chiefs had the last pick of the first round last year. Clark Hunt came out, held the Lombardi. I'm assuming he's going to, he would love to do something like that again. It won't be in Kansas City this time, so maybe not. But we saw that the Chiefs drafted a local kid out of Kansas State, Felix Anudike-Uzomah, Hopefully I said his name correctly. FAU, as the kids like to call him.
Mm-hmm.
Look, we didn't get to see a ton from this kid this year. We saw around 250 snaps total. I liked what I saw. I didn't love what I saw, but I think that a lot of times kids have to grow to become men in the league, man. And we saw, I think the most notable part of his rookie season was in that Jaguars game early in the season where him and Chris Jones were getting to Trevor Lawrence a lot. I think this kid's got promise. He's a Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year. He's got quick burst. I don't know what his strengths are going to be at the NFL level because we know sometimes guys have to change their game up a little bit, become something else they didn't envision becoming originally. Maybe he won't be something special, but I think this kid could be something good. I think he could be a solid player. And like you said about the being at the end of every first round, sometimes you have to take a guy that you're willing to say he may never be a great player, but he's going to be a solid asset for the next 4 or 5 years. What is your honest assessment off FAU's rookie season? Do you think he could take steps forward in his sophomore year?
Yeah, I think that he definitely can. The what you came out of FAU as far as a draft prospect last year, he was a second round grade guy. And look, when you're picking at 32, sometimes you're going to take second round graded guys. That's just the way it sometimes works as far as that's concerned. There are not 32 first round graded guys every single year. That's the real situation. FAU is a guy that I thought had a very good athletic baseline. He has the ability to bend the arc, has a good first step. He's got power in his hands as well, and I think that actually his pass rush plan is pretty good. He just needed a little bit more refinement on the finer aspects of it. You saw early in the season he struggled to get off the ball, really timing the snap from that perspective. There were times in which really, really good tackles were able to wash him out, specifically like opening night versus 𝚂𝙺 𝙴𝙽. 𝙴𝙽 was able to give him some hell, which is understandable. 𝚂𝙺 𝙴𝙽 is an all-pro tackle for a good reason as well. What I wanted to really see was two things as far as, because obviously we saw him in the space and time in which Omenihu was suspended. And we saw that he had some weaknesses as far as defending the run and specifically in having a mind for the game and understanding when to get off the ball in that perspective. Fast forward to what we saw in week 18, where he was able to play a good allotment of the snaps versus the Chargers. I thought that he was better in both respects. I thought he was much better at setting the edge. I thought that he was getting consistent timing off the ball. I liked what I saw from that perspective. And even in the Super Bowl, you saw him able to shoot the gap and be able to create a pretty big tackle for loss as well. So all of those elements are there for him to be a good pass rusher. And specifically, when you talk about picking at 32, George Karlaftis is a guy that came in, had a solid rookie season, and then was able to increase upon it and be a double-digit sack guy. That's really good value for what you picked at 32. FAU, I think, can have a similar jump from this perspective of get him in the lab, a little bit more work with Joe Cullen, specifically on the technique side. Hopefully, I'd love to see him again work with 𝚂𝙿𝙸𝚂𝙾 Ali the same way that George Karlaftis worked with 𝚂𝙿𝙸𝚂𝙾 Ali last offseason. Just being able to work on that finer aspect of pass rush, understanding the mind for the game, work a little bit more on your timing. The game slows down from a rookie year to your sophomore year from that aspect as well. And then you could come in. He's going to be asked to do more because of what we talked about, Mike Dana being a free agent, Charles Omenihu being out at probably at least half the season, if not maybe more. Obviously, a lot of the D-line being a little bit in flux. So he's going to be asked to do more, but I think he will be ready to do so as well. And another thing that I always say, when he was at K-State, he was playing out of position a lot. He was playing as a odd front kind of defensive tackle. He's a little bit lighter from that perspective, so he's more of an even front defensive end from in a lot of respects as well, because they play a lot of 3-3-5 at K-State. I want to see him as a more traditional edge moving forward, and I think that he could have a lot of success out there. And specifically, you talk about the Jaguars game, a guy that I liked a lot, Anton Harrison. He was giving him a lot of problems throughout the entirety of that, and that shows you a little bit about where he's at relative to his draft class and where he can continue to move forward as far as a guy going into his sophomore year.
Now, in your scenario, in this tweet that you put up there, you said sign a mid-tier vet wide receiver. First of all, I'd like to know who comes to mind when you say that. And two, I suggested, because we know there's going to be cap casualties. I know everybody loves the idea, the fantasy of getting a Mike Evans. Sounds like he's going to be a little priced out. Sounds like he wants a big payday. T. Higgins just got franchise tagged by the Bengals. We know he's not coming to Kansas City. So that starts to look. You start looking at cap casualties. I suggested Tyler Lockett. I know he's a little older, but he hasn't taken a lot of damage in his career. He's been known to slide and be a little more safe with his body, but he's an effective player. He averages over 1,000 yards and 7 touchdowns over the last 3 years. He's only missed 2 games over the last 5 seasons. I think he's a guy that could really fit this offense. It'd be a cool story, too, with his father, Kevin Lockett, former Chief. I put out there, give him a 2-year deal, roughly $25 to $30 million a year, 18 to 20 million guaranteed. I don't think he's a mid-tier vet. I think he's still a very impactful player, especially with a Patrick Mahomes throwing the ball as opposed to a Geno Smith. My guy Geno, love you, but you're not Patrick. So I want to get your thoughts on that as well. So who's your mid-tier veteran wide receiver, if you had to think of one, and what are your thoughts on the Tyler Lockett potential?
Yeah, so as far as the mid-tier veteran wide receiver is concerned, you mentioned the fantasy of Mike Evans or T. Higgins and Michael Pittman Jr. Those would be the high-end type of guys. I always thought that was a pipe dream from a financial standpoint, from some of the age aspects of Mike Evans specifically, and kind of what those teams were. I always expected them to kind of have a certain level of control, so I don't think the Colts are going to let Michael Pittman Jr. walk for anything. We know the Bengals are now going to tag T. Higgins at the very least. Mike Evans is looking for $27 to $30 million a year. That is completely out of our price range. So more in that mid-tier aspect of it. And so I'll name 2 names, and then I'll get to the Tyler Lockett of it all. Specifically, I'm warming up to the idea of Darnell Mooney, a guy from Chicago, somebody that had a good season under Matt Nagy specifically. His underlying numbers versus man coverage were actually pretty good. He's not somebody necessarily that's going to take the top off of the defense, though he has enough speed to kind of threaten deep occasionally. He does have the ability to be a reliable wide receiver in the short to intermediate areas, and I'm fine with bringing him in on kind of, an $8 to $10 million deal that be like, hey, let's rebuild your value here for a year, and you can try and go into the market next year and get a bigger deal for a little bit more, years as far as that's concerned as well. The other one would be specifically Hollywood Brown, a guy that actually has the speed to really take the top off the defense. He had a lot of injury issues last year. He does occasionally have a drop issue. Gotta acknowledge that. But I do think a cheaper deal to try and rebuild his value for 1 year is also possible. And I think that he's a guy that actually has the upside to really be a little bit of a game changer if you hit on the absolute highest end of his outcomes. Tyler Lockett is a guy that I tweeted out. I would love the idea of Tyler Lockett. It's 3 things major for me. 1, he's had the ability to beat man coverage on a consistent basis. He's really had that throughout his entirety of his career. He's a veteran. He understands how to sit down in zones. That would be no issue. 2, he has the inside-outside versatility that Andy Reid loves. He played the majority of his early in career in the slot. He's moved outside more so, especially since they drafted JSN last year. He has the ability to play all 3 positions. That's not an issue. He's a veteran presence in this room. He's obviously been in the league for a long time. He's had a lot of success in the league for a long time. I think that your kind of idea of where the price range would land, I think that's perfectly fine. The decline that I've seen from him doesn't necessarily concern me if I'm giving him a 2-year deal, and his injury history is fairly clean. You mentioned, obviously, his dad played here. That'd be a great homecoming. He also played at K-State, a little bit homecoming as well from that aspect of it. So in my opinion, if he is cut, that would probably be the most ideal mid-tier veteran wide receiver target that we could have, because I think that he satisfies pretty much everything that we need if we're going to bring in a free agent veteran.
I see. That's my whole point, and I know people will get uncomfortable with the idea of spending money on a veteran free agent wide receiver who's already in their 30s. But I think people need to understand that in this offense in particular, they're not going to be weighing on Tyler Lockett, where he's going to get 185 targets. He's not going to be the premier bell cow receiver. It's going to be, we know how it goes. Rashee Rice, Travis Kelce, him, and another couple pieces, younger guys. The reason why I was so big, and I know you're going to probably roll your eyes when you hear it because you probably saw every damn tweet of mine last year when I was talking about the importance of getting a guy like D-Hop, is because you get to mold all the younger guys underneath them. And even though Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore look like abject failures at this point, I do think their chances of excelling this last season would have been better had they had a guy like D-Hop take the pressure off of them to where they can just kind of work underneath, where the focus is on Travis Kelce, on D-Hop, and these guys are getting one-on-ones with cornerbacks 2s and 3s. That's what I think would be great for this year for the development of guys like Rashee Rice. And to your draft pick, I'm assuming you have 2 wide receivers out of this draft class. Imagine being those 2 young wide receivers. You have Tyler freaking Lockett. You have Super Bowl champion Rashee Rice in year 2 and the GOAT Travis Kelce. I mean, imagine walking into that knowing that those guys are going to be the ones that get the focus. And Patrick Mahomes is going to find the open man every time, no matter what the name of the jersey is. To me, that just sounds like an ideal situation. So that's why Tyler Lockett, to me now, obviously, he's got to get cut first. And we know the sentimental value of who he is in Seattle, a legend of sorts up there. But from everything I've read, I mean, they could save, I think it's $17 million in cap space if they do cut Tyler Lockett, so it does sound like that might be an inevitable situation. A couple more questions for you, though, DMAC, and it's mostly on the defensive side. You did finish up this tweet talking about keep Drew Tranquill or Willie Gay Jr. Man, I'm going to be honest with you, and I love Willie Gay. I just don't think it's going to happen. I think he knew that. That's why he tweeted that out. Initially, I thought it was a fake profile. It was him. He started a new one or whatever. I think Willie knows because Willie's about to get paid. He's 25, 26 years old, right in the prime of his career to go and get a big fat payday. I think he's going to get anywhere from 17 to 20 million a year. The Chiefs are not paying that to an outside linebacker in this defense, in my opinion. Unless they feel that Willie is that integral to this defense. I don't believe that's the case. Drew Tranquill to me is the much more realistic one because he'll be 29 next season. Usually Veach doesn't pay guys at that level, but I don't think that you're going to see a long-term 3-4 year deal. You might see another year or a 2-year deal with the second-year option that pays Drew 7 to 10. That's what I think is going to happen. I actually think there's a really good chance that Drew Tranquill's back because on both sides of it, both sides want that to get done. I think it's financially realistic. What do you think with that situation? Which one do you think is more realistic to happen? Because I don't think both will happen.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head from that perspective. Willie Gay Jr. profiles an extremely athletic guy that's kind of been in a little bit lesser of a linebacker role, but for as many teams that do need help at that second level, I mean, off the top of my head, the Eagles and Cowboys just flat out need as much linebacker help as they possibly can, and there are a bunch of teams around the league that could use a young athletic guy like Willie Gay Jr. to come into the league. So I think that he is going to get paid, certainly, and I think that he's going to price himself out of coming back to Kansas City, and ultimately Drew Tranquill, for all the reasons that you laid out, make more sense. He has the ability to play that will linebacker. He has the ability to give them cover to be more of the Mike if they need to, as far as if Nick Bolton gets hurt, as we saw this past year. He has the ability to continue to mentor some of the younger guys, Cam Jones and Jack Cochran, within that room as well. And you can see the Spagnuolo has a certain level of trust in him. And then from his player side, it really does seem like he's found a home here in Kansas City. We saw the episode of Franchise that he talked very highly of his time in Kansas City, and even then he was only a few weeks in by that point. And he has continued to really embrace KC, better than LA, all up and down the parade route, which is really funny to see. I think that he certainly fits the idea of what Spags wants to do in this defense. I think that he provides a very good complement to what Leo Chenal and Nick Bolton bring to the table in that linebacker room. And I think from a perspective of where his price is probably going to land and his willingness to sign at that price back here in KC, he is a lot more realistic of a target from that perspective. And in our scenario, that's the one that I went with as well. I was just, leaving the door open a little bit for Willie Gay because I do love Willie Gay Jr. and what he's bringing to this team for a while. And certainly, if he does get paid, which I fully expect him to, I will certainly be happy that he is getting full due for what he's been able to do for us.
I think the running back position needs to be taken a lot more seriously than some people are assuming this offseason because we know that Isaiah Pacheco's, he's that dude. He's an aggressive runner, but DMAC, I don't know if you see it the same way I do, but I don't think that Pacheco's got this long career ahead of him. I think he's got these 3 to 5 years. I think it's a 3 to 5 year window where he's really going to be who he is. And I hope I'm wrong because I'd love to see players play as long as they can, make as much money as they can. And him being a 7th round pick, he's not made a ton of money to this point. That's why I hope he gets all the endorsements. I want to see this dude make tens of millions of dollars. More than likely, though, he's not going to probably get that in his NFL career because we know how the NFL values the running back position. And again, he was one of the last picks of the draft. I think that the Chiefs really need to take this position seriously. I don't think they need to go after an Austin Eckler, a 29-year-old running back. I don't think that's the option here. I do like the fact, though, in the heart of your draft, you have the Chiefs taking a running back. If you could give us some specifics about this kid in particular, why you like this guy, and do you think that the Chiefs are going to go get another veteran, or do you think a Jerick McKinnon or Clyde Edwards-Helaire are back, or do you think a Deneric Prince arises and becomes Deneric King, if you will? I like that. I think that was pretty good. But how do you see the running back room being constructed next year?
Yeah, look, as far as the running back room is concerned, I think that you have the right idea. Isaiah Pacheco runs, in my opinion, harder than anybody in the league. Flat out. And that style of play is not going to be long for this league as well, unfortunately, on top of what the running back position always is. You look at the running backs when you draft them, it is a 3 to 5 year window of which you're going to be able to get production out of them. I think that's just what you have to assume with these guys in a lot of cases. And certainly, unfortunately, that's going to apply to Isaiah Pacheco. Irregardless of what that kind of long-term view is going to be, they need a supplement to him coming into next year flat out. They have to have a guy that has a little bit more explosive juice, has the ability to gain yards after the catch as well. can give them a little bit of a dynamic ability to pair with Isaiah Pacheco compared to what you're seeing from, last year. And obviously with CEH and Jet McKinnon, who CEH, he was able to play well enough. It was fine compared to what we had. But again, it wasn't great. Jet McKinnon obviously was in that lineup. He's aging. I'm not against bringing him back, but it's not really something that I'm really extremely excited about doing. I think that with the running back room that you talk about, and I treat it a little bit sort of like the wide receiver room, is I think that you need to go out and sign a veteran. A guy like Antonio Gibson, who, depending on what his price range is, I think will come in fairly cheap. He has the ability to catch the ball out of the backfield. He has the ability to run the ball to the edges effectively. He would be a guy, and he's excellent in pass protection as well. He would kind of be a guy to come in and replace what you got out of Jet McKinnon, and he would have to be a little bit younger, a little bit more durable from that perspective to pair with Isaiah Pacheco. And then I think that you, again, need to invest in the day 3 of the draft. Obviously, here in this specific one, I take Bucky Irvin in the 3rd round. That's the highest end, and even then I stretched a bit to take that from my perspective. But there's plenty of guys. Will Shipley, a guy out of Clemson, Kamani Vidal, a guy out of Troy that I really like. There are explosive guys that can really give you something that you want to pair with Pacheco in that backfield. And I do think that those specific investments are necessary because there were a lot of aspects of our run game last year that weren't good. And there are a lot of aspects of our running back room last year that left a lot to be desired. And I think that there are ways to use very cheap assets to improve what you have in that room.
Final thing here, DMAC. I don't know if you know this about me, but I like to cook. And I think I cooked this week. Trevor, go ahead and put that wish list up real quick so D-Mac can see it in case he missed it.
Let's see the stuff, man. Let's see the final product.
This is my list. This is my Chiefs off-season wish list. D-Mac, did I cook or not? What do you think about this list, man? Go ahead and dissect this right now. Agree, disagree with whatever you got on this, man, because I think I cooked, man. I think I put some linguine on this bad boy. What do you think, bro?
Okay, let's roll down this. So extend Chris Jones, all for it. Absolutely do it. I'm have no qualms about it. Tag and trade L'Jarius Sneed, if it's so be it. I think that if you get an offer that blows you away, I'm perfectly fine with that scenario. I trust this team to draft and develop DBs. It's going to be tough to lose a guy that plays at his level, but there are certainly arguments from a long-term value perspective that it makes sense to get value for him right now. Sky Moore for a day 3 pick. I don't know if necessarily somebody's going to give you a day 3 pick. I am perfectly fine with keeping Sky Moore on this team just to try and have him in the background as a developed guy that can, be in the slot as a depth piece. That's fine. If somebody wants to give you a pick for Kadarius Toney, absolutely, immediately, goodbye, sayonara. Cut MVS from the $11 million perspective. It is what it is. He's, playoff MVS is great, but he's not going to be worth anywhere near that $11 million you could save for you to continue to work in the offseason. Restructure Patrick Mahomes, that's a given pretty much in every offseason. I think one thing that some people miss as far as what that restructure is going to look like, that signing bonus, it could be up to about $32 million, and that's how much you can save. But again, that's a check that Clark Hunt is immediately going after cash. This team doesn't necessarily love to spend a lot of cash over cap in a lot of respect, so you have to keep that in mind. I think it'll be more of $20 million of that full 32, but that's fine. Jawan Taylor being restructured, the thing about it is the way that they kind of structure the contract, it's a little bit more of a flat thing. So you're not really going to get a lot out of that restructure. You could do it, but I expect them necessarily not to do that. What I'll say, because I'm looking at the rest of it, where I think that they try and find a little bit more cap space, it's going to end up being an extension on Justin Reed based on what his cap room is. Because we saw a little bit of Charles Omenihu who tweeted out of saying, hey, a lot as far as my money worth and that kind of perspective. I think they went to Charles Omenihu with an extension for him to try and lessen his current cap hit, and he didn't necessarily like the offer. I think Justin Reed is the second guy that they're going to go to try and create that cap space from that perspective. So extend Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith, perfectly fine by me. Extending Harrison Butker, I'm somebody that doesn't necessarily love to do that with the specialists. I'm perfectly fine with the fact that they let Tommy Townsend walk, because assume that he's going to end up paying, and obviously who they brought in instead is a totally different conversation. But we can get into this another time, certainly. But yeah, I mean, if you extend Harrison Butker, that's fine. It is what it is. Harrison Butker has been more than clutch. I do actually think that there's a very good argument for him being the best kicker in the league, truthfully, as great as Justin Tucker is. So I'm perfectly fine with that reality. So signing a notable veteran wide receiver, obviously we talked about some of my targets. I'm perfectly cool with that in that mid-tier price range. A depth piece wide receiver, some of the guys I like as far as that's concerned, KJ Osborne and Josh Reynolds. If those guys are cheap around the $2 to $4 million range, by all means, bring them in. I want to have as many people as we can to come in and compete as far as the training camp is concerned. That includes taking a little bit of a later day 3 wide receiver as well to compete with the Justin Rosses, the Nico Remichios of the world in that vein as well. Keeping Drew, Nick Allegretti, absolutely no doubt about it. Nick has been amazing for us as a depth piece. Drew, absolutely no doubt about it. Re-signing Mecole Hardman, I'm not personally against it. It just wouldn't be my highest priority. I think it's something that in the summer, if he hasn't had a market materialize for him and you want to bring him back, I'm perfectly fine with that reality. Just depends on how much you've invested into the wide receiver room from that point. But yeah, look, this is a good list, man. I appreciate
it. Would you say that, would you partake in that meal? Because like I said, man, I feel like that was in the pan.
I can sit down with that meal with a nice Sauvignon Blanc and have a nice meal with that, Doug.
Yeah, this man knows his stuff. Okay, and for the record, the whole Butker thing. Look, it's so funny. Last year, I was like, look, this dude keeps missing these damn PATs. I'm cool with the Chiefs moving off him after 2023 season. I really am, because I'm somebody who's not loyal to the special teamers as well. I was very happy to hear that Tommy Townsend was gone. I knew he was gone last offseason when he signed with Drew Rosenhaus. We knew he was going to go and get that $4 or $5 million deal a year, and he was not going to get that in Kansas City. Butker, to me, what he did this last season and how just unbelievably clutch he has been in the postseason is why I'm like, you know what, 28 years old. This dude has put himself in the upper echelon of percentages of all time, up there with Justin Tucker, Justin Tucker and Younghoe Koo, like 90% field goal made.
I'd also say what he's done from a playoff perspective specifically. I mean, he's up there with any clutch kicker that you like. He's up there with the Stephen Gostkowskis of the real world. He has so many game time or game winning field goals in the playoffs. It's stupid for a guy kind of his age. So, I mean, look, if he's a guy, there's certain players in sports, and look, kicking generally is a little bit more of a volatile type of thing to have year over year. But there's certain players in sports that when everything is on the line, their heart rate slows down, everything is completely locked in, and they have no, angst about it. Every single time Harrison Butker is lining up for a 50-plus yard field goal that needs to be made in the playoffs, I'm completely calm because I've seen him do it more times than not. I'm perfectly fine with the reality scenario. And for a team that is going to continue to be competing for championships like us, that is a very valuable asset to have.
Couldn't agree more. And a valuable asset to have is friends like DMAC. So they come on the show, drop knowledge, give us some content that we very much need, especially when it's the off season. Got to get some. And look, man, I was anticipating you and I were going to very much disagree on that initial take. Bro, everything you said made sense. So I think we both cooked here today. It's like two chefs hanging out, Guy Fieri and what's his name over there in New Orleans? Bam, the guy does Bam. What's that? What's it? Emerald, yeah. It's like we're just sitting here cooking, bro. We're just doing a little cook-off,
For sure, man. Absolutely.
I like
it. And look, I love to talk off season. This is the fun part of it where you get to get into the team building, and there's so many different ways it can go. And look, it's combine's right around the corner, and we're coming up on free agency very soon. So definitely enjoyed thank you for having me on, certainly, man.
Absolutely. We're going to have you back on hopefully before the draft, if not after the draft, so we get some grades as far as what you took from the team. But either way, man, we're going to get you back on. And it's not going to be another damn year like we did this last time. We're going to get you back on whenever you have time. But I know that you got multiple shows. If you could, man, plug them. Let the people know where they can find all your guys' shows, where they can find your social medias.
Yeah, for sure. Got to plug them in. So first, at Kingdom Cast over there on Twitter as well, YouTube, Facebook. You can find us pretty much everywhere. So Thursday nights, I'll hop on with the crew, Boogie, Chuck, Country, Kylie, and we like to go through some of the relevant Chiefs news as well. And then I have our Wednesday Tell the Truth podcast also on Kingdom Cast with me, CJ, and DJ DG over there for those that know him from Twitter, man. We like to dive in a little bit more on the film review, a little bit more on the really draft nerd stuff. And like I said, we're doing a little choose our own off season before free agency really kicks off to kind of get over these scenarios. So definitely go over here and check it out. You can find me on Twitter at DMAC Wake 316. I do weekly Red Friday Spaces every single Friday afternoons where we talk about the relevant Chiefs news, and we'll keep it rolling into the off season because look, there's always something happening as far as the NFL calendar is concerned. So yeah, man, it was good talking to you, Lance.
Absolutely, and that's the bottom line because DMAC said so. Dude, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much for being here, bro. Keep killing it. Keep doing great. I follow your work, bro. I appreciate everything you guys do over at Kingdom Cast and Tell the Truth. You guys do awesome stuff, man. Quality content. It's what we need in the Chiefs community, man, because there's not enough of it, and you guys provide it for sure, bro. So thank you so much. You guys do have no excuse. Follow my guy, DMAC. He does great stuff, man. Thanks so much, DMAC. Enjoy your weekend, brother.
Appreciate you, man.
Absolutely. Talk soon, man.
Absolutely, man. That's our guy DMAC Wakefield, man. We appreciate him so much for coming on today. I hope you guys enjoyed that as much as I did, because I thought that was like reading the sports Bible right there, man. Just getting some good word on a Saturday, just getting his ideas, his thoughts on everything that's going on in the Chiefs. I honestly didn't expect us to go too much into the draft, because we know that we got the decisions that are about to be made over these next few weeks are going to be what actually entails what the Chiefs do in the draft.
Yep.
So, we have no idea, and I like the fact they're doing this choose-your-own offseason thing. That's pretty clever how they do that, because in these scenarios, it obviously builds what you do in the draft. And I'm really excited for the draft, but I'm really excited for what's to happen, Trevor. And before we get to speak it, man, I'm going to drop my numbers real quick, and I know it's on there. I think the Chris Jones contract, is that list on there by chance?
I don't think I see that.
Okay, well, if it's not on there, it's okay, because I just have the numbers right here. I want to tell you guys and then we're gonna get to speak it. You guys can react to this as well. I want to hear what you guys' thoughts are. I didn't get to DMAC on this one, but since he said that he would be all for a Chris Jones extension, I'm assuming he would agree with the numbers that I have. But here's my contract extension I would offer Chris Jones this offseason, Trevor. And you can tell me if you disagree or agree or not.
All right.
I think they should offer him a 4-year deal for $114 million. $62 million guaranteed through the first 2 seasons, which gives him what he wants, which is $31 million a year for the first 2 years. And then $85.5 million total guaranteed through the first 3 seasons, which equals out to roughly $28.5 million of guaranteed dollars per year, an annual salary of $28.5 million per season, which would make him the second highest DT in the NFL. And remember, we talked about meeting halfway. I know that if he goes to the Panthers, he goes to the Bears or a place like that, he could get probably $32 million a year.
Yeah.
But if he's willing to take a couple million less per year, but stay with a team that's going to continue to contend for Super Bowls, I'd like to believe he'd make that in endorsements, incentives, things of that nature, bonuses through playing in the playoffs. You get those playoff bonuses, Super Bowl bonuses. Those things are going to continue to happen for him in Kansas City. So if he's making $28.5 million a year for 4 seasons with the Chiefs, and the fact that for the Chiefs side of things, you're getting a player still at the peak of his powers, you continue to build because if you keep Chris Jones in place, you're spending money there, but that incentivizes you to not spend money elsewhere in the defense. You can continue to spend money on the offense and keep it cheap over on the defensive side of things, because you have your centerpiece still in place to build that young defense around. Do you agree with those numbers?
Would the 4th year be a 4th year option?
Yeah, because the first 3 years would be essentially fully guaranteed.
Guaranteed. Okay.
Yeah. So if let's say at 32, 33 years old, he's starting to Chris is starting to lose it a little bit, then you can get out of that deal.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that's a win-win for both sides, in my opinion. I mean, you're paying Chris Jones for what he's worth. We all agree he's, outside of Aaron Donald, the best at that position in football, so paying him as such makes sense to me. The guy's a proven commodity. He's been a part of this dynastic run, a massive part of what we are as our identity as a team, and especially this year, it showed itself the most when this defense took that next step, and him leading the way with those young cats, the youngest defense in football, yet we still were dominant on the back of Chris Jones and what Spags and him are able to do together, and the communication, the trust they have in one another, along with everyone else on this defensive unit, of course. But yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of levers that need to be pulled before we can execute a deal like that. What we're going to do with Snead. Are we going to tag Snead? Are we going to trade him? Are we going to tag and trade him? Or what are we going to do with him? Other things with Drew Tranquil and things like that. Obviously, I think getting Chris Jones out of the way first makes sense before Tranquil can be addressed and extended and possibly. So, I mean, the money makes sense to me. The years is perfect because I think around the time he's 34 years old, he's probably going to be contemplating retirement.
Yep.
What better way to walk away? What better way for him to ride off in the sunset if he collects another couple rings in that process over those next few years?
5-time champion. You know what I mean? He'd be like a 7-8-time All-Pro player.
If we execute the plan here and going back to back to back in a three-peat, I mean, he could walk away then. Who knows? I mean, but if he has that much money on the table, going for a 4th in a row, who knows, man? What we'll be looking at that moment. But yeah, I mean, he'll solidify his legacy in not only Chiefs lore but NFL lore as one of the best to ever do it at that position and be one of the most successful, along with statistically proven to be one of the GOATs at that position. So. Yeah, man, there's no scenario in my mind where I see Chris Jones not being a part of this run still, and he's very much a massive part of it. And I think moving forward, he's still going to continue to be that. So pay the man what he's worth. I feel like we should have done it last year, but maybe the money lines up better with the extended cap this year, and some movement as your recipe there of a nice little dish looked like possibilities there that can at least a few of those get done. That can open up a lot to make Chris happy. and make us happy, because when Chris is happy, we're happy.
Yeah.
And his defense is happy. Spags is happy. So let's make everybody happy.
Let's make them happy.
Yeah.
Are we happy?
I'm
Let's
happy
get to the
with
people. Let's see if they're happy, Trevor. This is the first speaker we've had in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
What's going on, people? Talk to me. Let me know what's going on. Speak it.
All right. So off the top rope, we got our guy Henrique on YouTube. Jerick McKinnon, MVS are coming back? ?
Jerick McKinnon and MVS, I think there's a better chance that neither are back than either one of them being back. Biggest reason why is I think Jerick McKinnon, although he's been a very effective player in this offense when healthy, guys, we're looking at a guy that's going to be 32 years old, undersized running back who just had a core surgery. Look, he did play in that Super Bowl, and he had a couple of effective plays, and I can't believe he was able to play.
Love that guy, man.
I mean, a month after a core surgery, you guys understand, like, your body is 2 parts. And your core muscles are what keep those 2 parts together.
Yeah.
Those ripped. And this man had a surgery to keep together, and this motherfucker played in the Super Bowl 4.5 weeks later. Like,
you've seen his quote after the game when they're talking about him coming back early. He's like, I was a premature baby, so. It's like,
that's what I'm saying. Like, I love this guy.
Yeah.
I don't mean to doubt McKinnon, but I just think that I think it's there's a shelf life on everybody. And I think the Chiefs are like, hey man, you've been with this team now for 3 seasons. We appreciate you being here. You've helped us win 2 Super Bowls. I think it's just time that we part ways. The retirement sounds like a possibility for McKinnon anyway.
Maybe.
And then on the MVS side of things, you guys know where I've been on this guy. I will never stand back and pretend like I wasn't the one that made up a nickname for the guy. I will stand on business when it comes to that. I will tell you guys that I did say that because more times than not, MVS is a guy that hurts this team more than he helps them. The good thing for MVS is that he helped this team when it mattered the absolute most. He made some key plays.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. The Chiefs can find other guys that can make key plays throughout the year to replace him. It's not going to be, oh my God, MVS finally started playing football. It's 19 weeks into the season.
Oh, and we're hoping he makes a play.
Yeah, and
we're
you're
hoping,
also
hoping that he catches that ball in the postseason.
Yeah, and you're paying him on an average of $10 to $12 million a year. Like that's just that money just doesn't make sense, and the Chiefs are definitely not extending him.
Yeah.
So I don't think the Chiefs are going to keep him on that $10 to $12 million contract next year. I think MVS is 100% gone. I don't think anybody's going to trade for him. I think they're going to outright cut him and save that $12 million. I think that's what's going to happen. I think both of them are going to be gone.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think McKinnon has a better chance if one of those two are coming back. I think McKinnon can come back for pennies. I mean, he's not going to make it much if he does, but I think he's a loved guy in the locker room for sure. I think he's one of the favorites of Coach Reed.
Yeah.
I think he loves his character and his comedy and his personality. And I think, guys like that tend to stick around in locker rooms for a long period of time, even if they're not like a massive contributor. I think I could see him come back on a small deal. And he didn't have to play much this year. He's a good pass pro guy, and he's more of a receiver than he is, if anything, than a pure running back. And he's a guy that Andy Reid knows he can depend on to make plays, even in his older age. So I can see McKinnon being back, but MVS has got to be gone, bro. Next one from our guy Henrique. Cut Kadarius, cut more, or both?
Both. If you can't trade him. I think that on my wish list, you trade because I want to see the Chiefs get 2 to 4 draft picks from trades this offseason. I think that trading L'Jarius Sneed, I believe you can get a second and a fourth for L'Jarius Sneed. I think a team like the Eagles would be more than willing to give up multiple picks for him because their secondary is ass.
Yeah.
I think there are several teams out there that would love to get L'Jarius Sneed and get his services and get him immediately. So I think that's the biggest trade chip they have. But having Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney both on rookie deals and having the skills that they do have, there could be an offensive coordinator out there that's like, hey, I can make it work. You know how these guys, these coaches are. Like, I could get that guy to do something. I liked him out of college. There's always those guys. So, yeah, exactly. So I could see that being a possibility where a team like where did Kingsbury go? The Commanders?
Yeah.
I could see him saying, hey, I liked Kadarius Toney at college. I liked Sky Moore up there. And
he's shifty.
Yeah, I could utilize one of these guys. We got $70 million in cap space. We got all these draft picks. Let's go trade for let's go give up a conditional 6th-round pick for a Sky Moore. Let's give up a conditional 7th-round pick for Kadarius Toney. What do you get to lose? Those are flyer picks anyways. You might as well go get guys that have helped a team win a Super Bowl and go out there and try to see what they can do at 24, 25 years old. That's the way I see it. But if you can't get trades out of these guys, I would like to see them cut them, but here's the problem, Trevor, is that Kadarius Toney's money is the same as if you were to keep him or cut him, so more than likely he's not a cut option, and I don't think they're going to cut Sky Moore. I think that they look at him as a guy that's on a rookie deal still that they believed in so much they traded up for him in the 2nd round a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
So more than likely if they don't trade them, I think they both would be on the team. But I just don't think that there's any scenario where Kadarius Toney's on this team, man, because of just being a healthy scratch in the Super Bowl, having the issues he had with the dropsies, saying the things he's saying, the off-field distractions. The Chiefs just don't like that shit, man. I think there's a better chance that Sky Moore's still on the team than Kadarius Toney.
Probably right. Yeah. But I mean, either one of them, do I see them as contributors to this offense moving forward? Not really. I was a believer all year long in Kadarius, but it looks like that ship has sailed, if I'm being honest with myself. Next one from our guy. Looks like our last one from our guy, Enrique. Save cap space with Justin Reed or Reese and Reese. Save cap space with Justin Reed. First question. Re-sign Drew Tranquil. Second question.
Yeah, I think that Justin Reed's going to be on this team. I don't think that. I mean, our guy DMAC said there's a chance that they might go and try to get an extension with him. I think there's a better chance that does happen than Justin Reed not being on the team. Because, like I said, I think the Chiefs honor veteran safeties they go and get. Like I said, with Tyrann Mathieu, he had a 3-year deal. They let him play the 3 years out. Justin Reed's coming up on his 3rd year of a 3-year deal. I think he's going to play it out. He'll be, I think, 29 years old when he's out of it, just like Tyrann Mathieu was.
Yeah.
So I think that's what they're going to do.
Justin Reed played great this year, man.
Yeah. And
he's really good this year.
If they could come up with a way to get an extension done, I mean, I wouldn't hate it, but my thing is, I don't know if Justin Reed's a guy that you want to have here for another 2 or 3 years because of the fact that you have so much equity already in place that's so much cheaper at the safety and cornerback positions. You have Brian Cook, you have Chamari Conner, you have Nick Jones, you have Najee Johnson. Like, there's so many guys already there that haven't gotten their chances to truly shine because of Justin Reed. And not that Justin Reed sucked. Justin Reed's a good football player.
Yeah.
He's sensitive, but he's a good football player. I think this is his last season. I don't think there's gonna be an extension. I think they just play out his contract and then he moves forward and extends his career elsewhere. I think that's just how this is gonna go. Who was the other one? Was it Drew Tranquil?
Yeah, resign Drew Tranquil.
I think it's such a common sense move to keep Drew Tranquil. Not just because of the fact he's one of those rare guys that it's like a feel good keep guy.
He feels like he's planted his flag here.
Yeah, and here's the biggest thing. It isn't just like that we all like him, because I don't know a single Chiefs fan besides Carrington Harrison who said before the season last year he just feels like Drew Tranquil's been a disappointment. I don't know where you get that. But Drew Tranquil is not just one of those guys that everybody just universally likes. He's such an effective football player.
High IQ.
Yeah, he's such a smart guy, great tackler, amazing in pass defense. Like, that's everything the Chiefs have needed out of their linebacking room for so long. So even though, yes, he's going to be 29 years old next season, this dude is still at the top of his game. And I think that if you can get a 2-year deal with Drew Tranquil, you do it. You pay him. If I'm playing GM right now, Trevor, because for some reason I'm on a fucking roll here when it comes to these contracts. If I'm the Chiefs, I'm like, listen, Drew, you got a 1-year, $5 million deal last year. I don't know how the hell we got you on that because you're fantastic. You over exceeded that contract. We'll give you a 2-year deal, $18 million. You make $9 million a year, and 15 of that's guaranteed.
Yeah.
He would sign that. Because, yes, he can make better money elsewhere, but like you said, Trevor, I feel like he kind of staked his flag. Just a little side story. I know a medical rep that got to know Drew Tranquil's family at a Chiefs game. They were playing the Chargers, his former team, and he just so happened to be sitting right next to his family. He got to know them, and they said that they could not stress it enough. There's no cameras around. There's no recordings. They're just talking to a guy.
They told him the script. They told him the script for the season.
Well, just play a 3rd and 3.
We're getting a
bombing
3-peat?
that shit. No, they literally told him, he was talking to his father. He said, I cannot stress to you how great of a time Drew's having in Kansas City. His family, they love it in Kansas City.
That showed at the parade, man.
Yeah, like he's loving it. His family, and that's the big thing. When your wife and your kids and everybody are loving where you're at, not just playing for the team, but the city you're in. Being a Midwest guy, if I'm not mistaken, Drew Tranquil's from Indiana. So he's a Midwest guy already. So this kind of feels like home. I think it makes so much sense that Drew Tranquil stakes his flag here, plays here a couple more seasons. He probably won't finish his career in Kansas City, but I do think that we can get a couple more seasons out of Drew Tranquil's prime and continue to contribute to potential. Because he said that even at the parade, stacking Lombardis. And if you remember Andy Reid's text to him initially before they even signed Drew Tranquil, he said, "See red and think Super Bowls." He didn't say Super Bowl.
Yeah, plural.
They didn't have a plan of him being here 1 year. They were like, "Hey, let's test it out. If you exceed it, we will give you a long-term deal." And I think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, and you don't think that guy wants to be, with all the 3-peat chance and all that, you don't think he wants to go down in history and have a chance of doing that, being the only team and being a part of a massive part?
Yeah, man.
Especially going into this next season, if Willie Gay's gone, he'll be even much more of a integral part of this defense. So, and how odd is it being from Kansas City growing up in the Midwest, hearing guys coming from massive markets like LA saying that this is way better than L.A. It's just crazy, man. The time that we live in now, if that's not another reason to stop and smell the roses, man, right. I don't know what is. We got guys coming from the biggest markets in the world, coming to the Midwest and saying this is way better. It's just what a time to be alive, man.
Right.
Another question from our guy Michael Maldonado. How many picks you guys think Chiefs could get in return if they tag and trade Snead?
I will stand pat on it. I do believe it'd be 2 picks. Because of the fact that even
though if he made All-Pro this year, that might have affected a little bit more.
Yeah, because you remember what Jalen Ramsey got in his when he went to the Rams. They gave up 2 firsts.
That holds weight.
I think it was 2 firsts and 2 fourth or third and a fourth. It was like 4 picks.
It was a haul, yeah.
I don't think that you're getting 4 picks out of 𝚂𝙾𝙸 Snead. Yeah, because you're right, Trevor. I think if he made the All-Pro team,
which he was snubbed for,
that would change things, and that's all the more reason why I don't think he's going to get paid in Kansas City.
Or Pro Bowl. He didn't make Pro Bowl or
that's
wild,
beyond stupid. But yeah. I do think that you could get multiple picks out of 𝚂𝙑. I don't think the Chiefs would get a first out of him. I really don't. But like I said, a team like the Eagles keeps ringing in my ear. A team that has to rebuild their secondary. I think that's a guy that would be perfect for you to plant into your system and be that shutdown corner. I think you can get a second and a fourth for Snead.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Bears are always a team too. And anybody who's a free agent right now, the Bears have so much damn money. Yeah,
the Ryan Poles connection too.
Sure. Okay, so yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I think you're not going to get a massive haul, but I do think becoming a Pro Bowler or a All-Pro definitely holds some weight. So if he had those accomplishments and those accolades this season, unfortunately he didn't. Even though I still think he was the best at that position all year, we probably would have got more of a haul for him if we do tag and trade. Julia Gulia, could Mahomes winning with this wide receiver group be a double-edged sword?
I think it's a double-edged sword only if Brett Veach is going to be ignorant or stubborn.
Right.
Because we talked about this last offseason and why I was the only thing I was pissed at Brett Veach about. You all know what it was. Is that he said, "Oh, we won the Super Bowl that way. Let's just do it again." And it did work. But even Brett Veach has to understand how hard this was for this is why I'm gonna go off. I'm just gonna say this real quick, Trevor, and I want to get your thoughts on this as well.
Yeah.
I think this was the single hardest Super Bowl run in the history of the NFL. You talk about the opponents they took on the road with such a this was a bottom 2, if not bottom 1 wide receiver room this season, guys. Yes, Rashee Rice ended up becoming a really good player, and he's going to continue to be. That was a hell of a pick by Brett Veach.
Yep.
But everything else after that is so bad that they could not play 2 of the guys that were supposed to be big-time contributors this season, and Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney. MVS was making a catch here and there. The only reason why he kept playing was because of his contract.
Well, we could play him. We just chose not to.
That's what I'm saying. Like Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore could not. They were unplayable at this point. Yeah. And everything else. It was so bad this season that they had to go and get back McCole Hardman, who they chose to let walk 3 months previous.
Well, he himself fumbled 2 times in the game previous to the Super Bowl.
That's what I'm saying.
And it came up with the game-winning play.
And with another year on Travis Kelce's shoulders, another year on Pacheco, who's not young, or not old, but not young anymore when it comes to just the
football
damage
years.
he's taken, you have to go out there and overcorrect at the wide receiver position. That's why I think guys like Tyler Lockett going and drafting at least one more wide receiver, going and drafting a tight end, just restocking this offense with young players or veterans like Tyler Lockett, who's never won anything in his career. We got to remember, guys, Tyler Lockett was drafted after the Seahawks won their Super Bowl. He was drafted in 2015, so he doesn't have Super Bowl success. This would be a perfect scenario for a guy like him who stays healthy, incredible hands, credible route runner like our guy DMAC broke down. That one way or another, the Chiefs are going to have to go out there and they're going to spend some money and they're going to spend draft capital on the offensive side this year more than ever because, yes, the Chiefs did win back-to-back Super Bowls this way, but it was so damn daunting and tough on Patrick Mahomes and this offense to get just enough out of it. You don't want to have another scenario where you're hoping that your defense can be elite again like that, because that doesn't happen every single year where your defense stays that great that long. They had a lot go right this year. They have to get their offense back to being a top 3 offense again and hoping the defense can stay within the top 10, because if that happens, then you have the most complete team in the NFL, and then a three-peat is actually a very realistic scenario.
100%. Next one from Julia Gulia. Does Veach let Snead walk and give Jones his guaranteed money? We're going to get a lot of questions like this.
How about you answer that, Trevor? Because I keep running my mouth about it. Why don't you give the people your thoughts on that?
I mean, me trying to put myself in the mind of Veach is a tough one to do. But if I'm being honest, based on Veach's track record, yes, he lets Snead walk and gives Chris Jones guaranteed money because that's what he's done already numerous times. We let Travarius was one of the top corners of football at the time when and he was incredible for us for the most part. Was really good in the postseason. And he let him walk and he got his money. And Chris Jones got extended. And Chris Jones has made some money in his career already, but he's looking for that final contract. And Veach has shown no signs of replacing Chris Jones, but he has shown signs, like we discussed already earlier in the show, how many DBs he's drafted compared to how many defensive tackles, defensive linemen he's drafted. And how many of those guys are even on this roster still? We had Mike Pennell coming in and filling in as an emergency role player, and he played really well. But we had no problem kind of rotating guys in alongside Chris Jones because we know Chris Jones is that great and he'll demand that much attention. Now, Jerry Snead isn't Chris Jones, and the impact isn't there. I'm sorry, it's just not the same. And Veach's track record shows that he will 100%, if I'm being asked this question and what I'm putting my money on Veach will do, it is 100% letting Snead walk, go get his money, go get his first big contract of his career, and extend Chris Jones. That's 100% what I think will happen. So, yeah. Next one from Julia Gulia. Are you surprised that George Pickens was never on Veach's draft board?
No, I'm not. I know, and our Starcade Media guys love to bring up that, and I get why they do because Pickens is clearly a better player than Sky Moore.
Sure.
But Pickens, for whatever reason, man, can't get out of his own way with his antics. And that's something the Chiefs just do not like when it comes to a highly touted draft pick. When you're within the first couple of rounds, they want guys that are going to be more of a leader than a guy that's going to instigate. That's why if you look at Tyreek Hill, he was more of a flyer pick. He was a 5th-round pick. We knew he had some troubles in his previous life or in his past. The Chiefs still took a flyer on him late in the draft because he had so much talent. He was a first round talent for sure, but they knew that he was dropping for a reason. A guy like George Pickens with a top 50-ish pick, they had to know for sure that football was his main objective. That's why I'm not saying that that's always the right way of going about it because guys can change, guys can mature, guys can grow up, but sometimes they don't, and you don't want to waste a pick that early. And I think that they saw Sky Moore with the hands he had, the best separation in college that year. He incredible sized hands too.
It's the number one rated receiver against the cover 2.
I just think that that frustration is more about the fact that Sky Moore just hasn't worked out, and then you start looking elsewhere and saying, "Oh, you could have had him," because it's the same thing with McCole Hardman and DK Metcalf. But I don't remember DK Metcalf catching a game-winning Super Bowl pass. I know, yes, I get it, guys. It was the Tom and Jerry / corn dog. But, guys, there's a reason why the Chiefs brought McCole Hardman back, and there's a reason why he made a play that he made, and they're trusting him with that.
Yeah.
Because the moment's not too big for him. And I think that's what the Chiefs saw in some of these guys early on. That's why Sky Moore caught a touchdown in last year's Super Bowl. I can never take that away from them because the Chiefs knew that they could get that job done, and they did it. Are they great players? No. So in retrospect, yes.
Bro, you can play revisionist history with any team, any GM, any coach. Every team has missed on a guy.
Right.
Tom fucking Brady, Aaron fucking Rodgers. All these guys were sat on. Obviously, Tom being sat on a little bit longer. I mean, Brock Purdy was the Mr. Irrelevant who just played in the Super Bowl. Played solid. You know what I mean?
Warner was undrafted.
This is football, baby. It's you hit and you miss. You just can't overcount the misses and ignore the hits.
Right.
Brett has drafted his ass off. He's had some misses, of course, and everyone does. No GM is perfect. Would I rather have had DK Metcalf over this time span? Sure, because that talent is overwhelming. His dominance is overwhelming. What he does and what he would demand on the offensive side and what him and Patrick probably could have done together would be something that no one would ever want to miss for football purposes. But also at the same time, we cannot ignore the things you just laid out with McCole Hardman, his impact and what he's done in the moments that we needed him to, and his versatility of being a punt returner and a kick returner, and his special teams, what he can do with Dave Toub and things like that, and his ability to have a good connection with Patrick Mahomes. That matters, right? And it obviously showed itself in the Super Bowl once again. So, and he's the 49er killer, if we're all being honest. That guy just scores touchdowns against the Niners. So.
Well, and to defend Veach a little bit, guys, because I know people think I hate him for some reason. No, I didn't like what he did with the wide receiver.
You got to be critical at times.
Yeah, I'll forever stand on that ground. But of 6 drafts that Brett Veach has had as the Chiefs GM, he's only had 3 first-round picks.
Yeah.
Think about that. For what he's been able to do and build this team essentially through the draft with 50% of the time not even having a first-round pick, let alone having the 32nd or 31st or 30th overall pick in the first round, not having a pick at all, and still going out here. I mean, look at just – here's some names, Trevor, that we would consider foundational pieces that the Chiefs have drafted just since 2020.
Right.
How about, Willie Gay Jr., he won't be on the team anymore, 𝚂𝙧𝙀 Sneed, Mike Dana. How about in 2021? You had Creed Humphrey, Nick Bolton, Noah Gray, solid piece. Then in 2022, Trent McDuffie, George Karlaftis, Brian Cook, Leo Chenal, Joshua Williams, Jalen Watson, Isaiah Pacheco, Najee Johnson. That's one draft class.
90% of those guys are starters.
And then 2023, we'll see what happens with FAU. But you have Rashee Rice, Wanya Morris started at left tackle for multiple games. Shamari Conner looks like an absolute stud.
Yep.
I mean, Nick Jones, if he didn't break his hand, that guy's playing a bunch of the season. What I'm saying is that Brett Veach has kicked ass in the draft in his career to this point where he's not even had to have a first-round pick.
Yeah.
Now he's going to start having more and more of them. It will be later in the draft. Maybe he starts getting aggressive, trades up more, trades back, whatever the case is. The fact is, this man's done more than enough for me to trust that, yes, even when he has missed on some of these other guys, he will still be able to find a way to have an effective draft class year in and year out and go and get pieces that will keep this team in Super Bowl contention. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, and even with picks like that.
100%. I'm just going to give John Harrison some love here. He put a few out there that I saved for later, just for some more statements than there are questions, but just some mathematical stuff here. Mahomes' contract is flexible. It has no signing bonus figures, $0 from 2028 to 2033. Figures can be reconstructed and moved those years. His cap hit in 2028 is $27.1 million.
In other words, he's going to get a restructure this year.
Yes.
Without question.
Kicking the can down the road.
And it's okay when you have a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes. You gladly take those hits.
Right.
When you know that you can restructure and soften the cap to go out and get players you need, you gladly will take those hits down the road with a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, because
he justifies it.
You want to win now. You want to
Yes.
keep this dynasty alive, and obviously the three-peat is the goal here at this point. I mean, we've celebrated for about 2 minutes, and we're looking forward to the third one.
That's how it goes, man. When you're in the midst
is.
of a dynasty, this is new to us, bro. But this is how it is now. Like, we don't sit here and just gloat on what took place and say, "Oh, that was fun." Well, who's winning the Super Bowl next year? No, the Chiefs have a legit shot to do what no other team has ever done.
Right.
Like, we're sitting here in the midst of a dynasty, man, where they could do something, and that's why the incentive is there for some of these free agents, where this could be that offseason where you finally start to see some of those guys. Because, we've sat here before and talked on the show about, man, why are guys taking a little bit less to come to Kansas City? It doesn't happen very often. This is that offseason where that actually starts to happen.
Yep.
Where you start seeing some guys, shed off a couple million here and there to come to Kansas City. That's why I think Chris Jones is getting a deal done. Because he knows. He's not stupid. This man knows that I can stay right where I'm at. Our Chiefs Hall of Famer, NFL Hall of Pro Football Hall of Famer. I can still make upwards of $27 to $28 million a year for the next 3 to 4 years, helping this team continue to win Super Bowls.
Yeah, and drunk off that alcohol you want. He said what he said at the parade.
Yeah.
That man said what he said.
Just stay out of the way, please.
Right.
Stay out of the way.
John follows that up with Snead has only received $3.9 million in 4 years. He wants a big payday and will get it. It just won't be here. They have proven they have draft and developed young DBs. Spags and Merritt can develop new BDs.
100% agree. 100% agree.
Yeah, and then follows that up with people always argue about Jones' 2.5 playoff sacks in 2.5 playoff sacks in 20 playoff games, but sacks don't tell it all. 6'5", 310-pound defensive tackles with his elite talent don't fall off trees. Look how many defensive tackles are drafted as the next great player, but never develop. This team will draft DBs to cover.
Trevor, Frank Clark has, 12 of his, 16, 17 sacks of his postseason career in Kansas City, correct?
Right.
How many of those do you think are in existence if he doesn't have Chris Jones taking the majority of the attention? This is what people have to understand. George Karlaftis just had a career year with 10.5 sacks this season. And that's because George Karlaftis is a bull.
Yeah.
George Karlaftis is the man.
Yeah, he's a beast.
But George Karlaftis benefited off of the fact that he doesn't ever have to be worried about being the number one pass rusher on his defense. That's the benefit that George Karlaftis has. That's why guys like Charles Omenihu gladly signed a contract that he probably could have made more elsewhere. But he knew coming to Kansas City, he gets to pair up with Chris Jones. Why do you think Charles Minihoo got such a name? It wasn't because he was having all these high sack totals. He was playing with Nick Bosa, who was getting the majority of the sack totals. Nick Bosa's the better player. But you want to attach yourself to guys like that because you know that you can make immediate impact, and that's where the dollar signs start to kick in. So if guys like George Karlaftis and Charles Minihoo and guys like that want to see those fat stacks, play with a guy like Chris Jones and up your resume next to a guy like that. That's how that's going to happen.
For sure. Bumpa BB on YouTube. Why not at least attempt to re-sign Snead? You just want to get rid of Snead without even trying to re-sign him.
No, it's not. It's not about just getting rid of. That's the thing people don't understand.
Yeah.
It's not. I've never once said Chiefs have got to get rid of L'Jarius Snead.
Yeah, we can get our cake and eat it too. Trust me.
What I'm saying, guys, is this is the best that L'Jarius Snead will ever be. I have a poll. I can pull it up for you guys. I asked this question on Twitter. What is more likely to happen in 2024? L'Jarius Snead only allows 1 touchdown again, or Chris Jones has 15 sacks again?
Right.
Dude, it was a vast majority of people think Chris Jones is going to get 15. Why is that? Because it's so unlikely that a quarterback has back-to-back great seasons. Even the best of all time.
Right.
They struggle to do that. And look at what the Patriots did with Stephon Gilmore, who won Defensive Player of the Year. They let him go.
Yeah.
This is how it goes, guys.
Because that's a volatile position. It's the running back of the defense. No offense. It's a running back of the defense.
Look, it's not like I'm going to rejoice when the day comes that L'Jarius Snead's not a Chief, guys. It'll be a very melancholy day. It'll be like, damn, man, like I'm going to miss L'Jarius. But I understand that this is a business, and that's what we have to understand here. Guys, I know a lot of us grew up in the 90s. Grew up in the early 2000s where it was all about loyalty and just re-signing all of our favorite players because it makes us feel good. And even though we knew we were never winning Super Bowls, we at least had our guys. Yeah. Guys, that's no longer how it is in Kansas City because this is a dynasty. Yeah. And in order for it to continue to be a dynasty, you have to make moves that aren't comfortable, that aren't popular. That's why guys like Nick Bolton are questionable to be here after 2024. That's why guys like L'Jarius Snead are more of a tradable asset than a long-term answer despite what you're hearing on local radio because they are at their best now and the team doesn't want to get hamstrung by paying them when they're no longer that. That's why paying Chris Jones makes so much sense because he plays a more valuable position and is still at the apex of his game, has no history of injuries, and this defense continues to be built around him at a cheap level. That's what you want to continue to have. If this wasn't a dynasty and the Chiefs were winning Super Bowls, I would say don't pay Chris Jones. See what you can do with some of these other pieces. It would be a different context. But because this team continues to win Super Bowls and we know who are the more paramount pieces to the equation, you want to keep those guys and pay them what they're worth because they're franchise players and you can't replace them. And then you see the way Brett Veach has continued to build his secondary and say, why would he change his methodology now when you're in the midst of it? He's not building it right now, guys. All he would be doing is retooling it. There's no rebuild for the Chiefs right now.
I think there's a quick way to really put this whole thing into perspective, though. Put yourself in Joe Burrow's shoes. Put yourself in Justin Herbert's shoes. Put yourself in Lamar Jackson's shoes. Put yourself in Josh Allen's shoes. Name your opposing quarterback that is a semi to minor threat, maybe big threat, with Joe Burrow being maybe the biggest threat as far as quarterbacks go, opposing quarterbacks goes, who's proven to beat Patrick Mahomes. Who do you think that they would rather have gone off this Chiefs defense? L'Jarius Snead or Chris Jones? Right. Going against them. If they could pick one player between those two to be gone when they had their matchups against us, which one of those players do you think that they would rather have gone? Do you think they'd rather take their chances of throwing downfield against L'Jarius Snead or not looking 5 feet away from them and seeing Chris Jones?
Right.
It's Chris Jones. Right. Every single time, no matter who, what quarterback, what head coach, what offensive coordinator is preparing and watching the film for that matchup, they don't want to see Chris Jones.
Right.
This is a simple thing here, guys.
Well,
but he's 30.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
And here's the other thing. L'Jarius Snead, to his credit, made a big play against Zay Flowers in the AFC Championship.
Of course.
But Trevor, have we not seen just a year ago in the AFC Championship when L'Jarius Snead, within 4 or 5 plays of the game, goes down with a concussion, Joshua Williams and Jalen Watson pick off Joe Burrow, and then who made the biggest play of the game to seal the victory?
Yeah.
Chris Jones.
Yep.
So there's a give and take here that we have to understand that, yes, here's the funny thing. L'Jarius Snead's play that he made against Zay Flowers wasn't a coverage play.
Right.
He dove and punched the ball out like it's a Peanut Tillman play.
Yeah.
It's not because you locked down Zay Flowers, because Zay Flowers was getting what he wanted in that game.
Right.
It was because you decided to go in there and punch the ball out. That's a freak play. Not to take nothing away from Ladarius. My point, though, is that isn't something that happens all the time. That isn't something that a cornerback is accustomed to doing, where that shows you the lockdown ability that he has. No, it shows you that he made a really heads-up play.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of guys have made heads-up plays on this defense. What I want to see is sustainable plays. Chris Jones getting sacked, getting a Joe Burrow like that in a big moment, going and getting Brock Purdy. I mean, I don't know if you knew this, Trevor, but in the Super Bowl, the Chiefs had 9 pressures that were unblocked, right? The most they had in a single game before the Super Bowl was 7. So Spags knew what to do with these guys and put them in the right places and the right things. That had nothing to do with Ladarius Sneed.
Right.
They don't rush him anymore like they used to.
Right.
They don't put him in that position.
Been blitzing a lot more than he has. Yeah.
They've just been having him on the outside. So my point is, as time is going on, guys, the Chiefs are showing us that although Ladarius Sneed is very valuable, they're not using him like they're using Trent McDuffie now. He isn't.
He's more of that press corner, coverage corner that has that nasty to him. That gets physical with the elite wide receiver.
And I hate to break it to you guys,
and that's valuable for sure.
I know everybody likes the whole idea of having 2 lockdown corners, but I promise you, you don't have to have that. You know why? Because the Chiefs have done it without them for the previous 5 years and won 2 Super Bowls before this last year. They didn't have 2. Trent McDuffie was not a lockdown corner his first season.
Right.
He was good.
Yeah.
He was really good. He wasn't locked down. He wasn't. This last season, Trent McDuffie's an All-Pro.
Yeah.
So they didn't have that last season. This defense wasn't nearly as good, but what they have is a consistent pass rush. Last 2 seasons, over 100 sacks. That's second most in the league. So I don't know what else to tell you guys. This defense, why do you think they went and got Joe Cullen? Why do you think they gave him an extension?
Right.
Because they know that their defensive line is going to be what drives this defense. They have an awesome linebacker room, even without Willie Gay. They'll continue to be awesome. And they have all these young bucks in the backfield surrounded by veterans like Justin Reed and now Trent McDuffie, who will be a veteran next season, 3rd year.
Yep.
You're going to start to see some of these other young guys start to play more pivotal roles, just like Ladarius Sneed did. We have to remember, guys, in Ladarius Sneed's first season, he only played 9 games. He was injured. He was good. He was really good.
Yeah.
But he was injured. And he started to become a guy. And we remember when he got drafted, what was he, Trevor? He wasn't even a cornerback. He was a safety.
Yeah. Hybrid safety.
Yes. Guess what Chamari Connor is?
Yeah.
A hybrid safety.
Oh yeah, I mean we've been talking about that in nauseam. Chamari Connor, and when he got some playing time out there, he looked great.
Yeah.
So that's a guy that was out there already making plays, laying on fumbles and
10
things like that.
10 tackles in the Bills game in the divisional round.
Yeah, man.
10 tackles.
Yeah, he got to start that game, by the way.
God.
A lot of people don't want to talk about that, but yeah, it's Chris Jones, man. No doubt a doubt. Michael Maladano. How about A.J. Dillon from Green Bay as a potential Chief? Big power back is what Chiefs need. I don't hate that. I mean, if we lose McKinnon and we lose some other guys and having another, thunder to the lightning of Pacheco, I like that.
Yeah.
Especially as a goal line guy. Yeah. AJ Dillon's proven to be a legitimate bowling ball.
Well, and the biggest reason why I would like that is because, like you said, Trey, he could take some of that wear and tear hits off.
It's a whole different pace too, and he's a good pass pro guy as well.
What I would honestly like to see, because of course I love to see the Isaiah Pacheco violent runs and stuff like that. But I will tell you guys though, the thing I love the most is what I coined the Pacheco down. I want to see Pacheco in year 3. I want him to become a more dual threat. Because we saw that some portions of this last season.
It's a development.
I loved it.
Yeah.
He looked good, man, out on the flat, catching the ball and just creating with his feet because he's got nimble feet.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to see year 3 Pacheco being more of a guy that gets out on the outsides and doesn't take all these big hits because I want this to last. I want Pacheco to play 4 or 5 years in a Chiefs uniform.
Right.
But he won't, man, if he'll be lucky to if he keeps playing the violent nature that he plays. I know it's fun. We all love it, and it gets us all pumped up.
Oh, we got a sample size
but
in this league.
He's got 6 injuries, 6-7 injuries in the last 2 seasons. Like, if you want to see this guy play another season or two, they better start spreading him out a little bit, getting those hands utilized a little bit more, and a big banger like A.J. Dillon would be one hell of a mix.
Oh yeah,
one hell of a mix for this offense,
especially for short yardage and goal line purposes. Yeah, absolutely. And I think they'll make a move. I'm sure they'll probably draft another late round running back to throw in the mix as well to battle it out. I do want to throw this other nugget up here from John Harrison. They could extend Tooney's contract a year or two, restructure it. His base next 2 years is $15.5 per year, cap hit of $26.9 each year, $16 million savings each year, post 6'1" cut.
That's what I don't know because they've already restructured him before.
Yeah.
And he's 32 years old. I just don't know if the Chiefs are going to try to kick that can down the road. They could if they really wanted to. And
He's one of those guys
Joe
that
would be willing to.
He would absolutely, yeah.
He'd be willing to. I just the idea of paying him the cap hit of $26 million at 34.
He feels like one of those guys that's going to be playing at like 38 and still.
And you might be right. You might be right. Joe could be one of those dudes.
He's different.
And maybe you're right. If it wasn't for a pec injury, dude. I mean, I don't know if you guys knew this, and John, I'm sure John knows.
Didn't miss a snap, dude.
This dude had the best pass defensive rate in the league.
Yeah.
He was so good, Trevor. He would win whenever him and another guy or two guys would go at it. He would win more than 99% of the time. It was 99.1% win rate.
Insane.
So yes, Joe Thuney's elite. I want him here as long as he can continue to play like this.
Sure.
But the idea of that cap hit, if you restructure him again, you better go out there and nail it with that money. Because that's going to be a hefty cap hit, man, for those next 2 years if you do that.
Yeah.
For a guy that's going to be in his mid-30s at that point. And then that's when you start to worry about injuries and things of that nature because he already got a pec tear. Hopefully, and please stop, for the love of Christ, asking me if the guy can play left tackle. I hate the fact that 𝚂𝙿 made that narrative. It's such a dumb idea. The fact that two guys had to go down for him to even play left tackle against the Bengals. Yes, he looked good. That was one freaking game, guys. He's not a left tackle. He's a guard. Stop.
Yeah.
Chiefs need to go and invest and go get themselves a franchise left tackle.
Absolutely. Our guy Brent, do you think the Chiefs need to change the way they view wide receiver? No more of the gimmicky gadget wide receivers like McCole, KT, Sky. I think they've started to do this because of the Rice pick. He's more of an ex-wide receiver role.
You answered it for yourself right there, man. I don't even have to say anything because you're 100% correct. The Chiefs, I think they've shown us in live action per se that they realize, that's just not how it's going to go.
Yeah, Rasheed Rice he's Sammy Watkins all over again.
Now, I will say this. There is a free agent out there that I think fits that gimmicky role if they don't keep McCole Hardman.
Shahid, yeah. He's a burner, too. That guy can take the top of a defense.
26 years old. I think that could be a guy that...
I like it.
Maybe Braxton Berrios is out there. A little speed guy, plays special teams.
Is Hunter Renfrow a free agent?
Yes,
the Raiders?
Hunter Renfrow's.
I like him too, man.
Yeah, he's looked kind of bad this last year, but
I mean, who would he have thrown the ball to?
True.
He's a proven really good route runner, man.
There are options out there. Like I said, Shahid, Braxton Berrios, Renfrow.
Yep.
Those are some guys that the Chiefs can continue because they're always going to use those jet sweeps, things like that. If they don't keep McCole,
yeah, and then we also have
they don't need those guys.
And we also have Remigio in the mix too, man.
Thank you for that's in my pocket.
I'm not forgetting about him, dude.
That's in my pocket right now.
What I saw from him in those preseason, but you see flashes of guys like, okay, this dude's got something.
I'm just gonna put it out there now.
It's like it felt. I know he's not Albert Wilson. He could be a lot better than Albert Wilson, but it has similar vibes to how that connection was with Albert Wilson.
He could be better than Albert Wilson
for sure,
dude. I think Nico Remigio could be a guy. I really do. I think that. I know that sounds like, well, thanks for telling us that, Lance. No, there's a reason why the Chiefs kept this kid. They put him on they stashed him away instantly. And I'll give credit to Marcus Dash from Chief Concerns. He's the one that told me about this kid first. Like, hey, watch out for this dude. I've been following him. I think this guy's got something. And what we saw in preseason last year is what I think we're going to continue to see in preseason this year. And I think there's a really good chance that kid makes the roster next season, man, if he stays healthy. Because I really like what he's got. He's little.
Tough, though.
But he's tough as nails. He's like a little Mighty Mouse out there. I like his hands. He goes up there and gets the ball at the high point.
Yeah.
I should have asked DMAC about him. We'll definitely ask about him.
I think he mentioned him, though. I think he mentioned one.
Did he mention him? Okay.
Yeah, he did. So our next question is from our guy, James T. Kirk. Hey, guys, welcome back. My question is, how do you honestly feel about the signing of the punt god? Okay,
you know what? I'm glad we're talking about this.
Yeah.
So 𝚂𝙿𝙸𝚂 is the kid that the Chiefs signed, the punt god. He's got an amazing foot. He originally was drafted by the Bills. I think he was a 6th-round pick or whatever it was in 2022. Then there was some heavy allegations that were brought down on 𝚂𝙿𝙸𝚂, where he went to San Diego. Was it San Diego?
Yeah,
San Diego State. Yeah, where there was an alleged gang rape on this young girl who's 17 years old.
Yeah.
Now the details are kind of where you find them. There's a lot of people out of the other, but basically what we have found out is there has been evidence that 𝙴𝙸𝙸 wasn't in the vicinity of where the rape took place.
He had an alibi.
He had an alibi, basically. He was not present, and they have video. He wasn't present in the videos they'd found.
Yeah.
The problem is 𝙴𝙸𝙸 did admit, though, supposedly him and this woman did have relations in another context. She was 17, so people kind of frown upon that. I'm not going to get into whether consent and all that. I'm not going to get into all that. All I do know is when it comes to what the Bills cut him for, it has now been shown that he is not guilty of. And I know the Chiefs, being a franchise that have taken risk on guys, I don't think they're going to take that risk unless they knew something that was substantial and concrete that justifies bringing him in. Not just because they had Tommy Townsend they liked, but it's because of the fact that they don't want to bring unnecessary controversy to the situation when they're in the midst of a dynasty where everything looks good. They got everything kind of rolling the right way. So what I will say is, from a football perspective, this is an unbelievable signing for the Chiefs because they have like an injury out clause on his contract where they're basically paying him no real money. They're paying, I think it's like $700,000. And for the abilities this kid has, let me just put it like this. He's so good, he was drafted as a punter. Like, that doesn't happen very often. There's like 2 punters
By
a year.
who?
By the Bills. Yeah, I love it. And there's only usually 2 punters a year that get drafted?
Yeah.
And this is one of them. This guy, his only punt, Trevor, you saw in the preseason last year, was an 82-yard punt.
Are we going to pull another fast one on the Bills?
I very well could. So from a football perspective, I absolutely love this. I understand why people are still talking about it. But guys, there's a reason why this kid has been cleared from what's going on. In the society and the generation and the culture that we live in today, trust me when I say, if there was something that they could get him on, they would get him on, and they would cancel the hell out of this dude, and he'd never play football again. He's not only playing football again, he's in the best, classiest organization in the NFL right now. So I love this signing, to be honest with you guys. Trevor, what are your thoughts on that?
No, I just can't wait for the game where he pins the ball down on the 1 against the Bills in the postseason, and we beat them because of that. That'd be great. No, I mean, yeah. The Chiefs are really great, especially Andy Reid's track record of doing your due diligence, and giving guys second chances. And no better place for second chances than to be playing for Andy Reid. Regardless, it's always a negative thing to have something like this attached to your name. But the allegations, I believe, were dropped on him, and it was all settled, I guess. And he had an alibi, and his name was cleared, from what I know and what I've read. So. It is an ugly attachment to your name, of course, in the history books, and people will always be against you, similar to even the Mike Vick stuff. People are going to hate that guy forever just because he was attached to something that was ugly. I get it. He did his time. That's an even worse situation as far as what was true and what he was actually a part of. Yeah, I mean, this makes sense as far as football moves. I mean, Tommy Townsend's going to get paid. You said he got Rosenhaus as his agent. He gets his guys paid. Yeah, man, I just think this is a no-brainer. I mean, we knew we were going to have to get another punter eventually at some point, and the time has come, and we got a guy that, like you said, got drafted by the Bills, a decent draft pick, and, just getting drafted into the NFL as a punter is something to be, notated. So for that, I mean, we'll see how he looks. It's going to take him getting out there and playing some football and kicking the ball to even know if this guy is really even worth it and this is going to work out. But like I said, the Chiefs do their due diligence, so I trust them to make the right move, and I think that is the right move there. Second question from James T. Kirk. Second question. Great interview today. Will 𝚂𝙿𝙸 be next?
No.
Only reason I put that question up there and I allowed that one is because we already used some of his material today, so... Otherwise, I would never even use that.
Fair enough. No. It's fair game. I will just say no. That will not be happening. The only reason his clips were on here today was because of the fact of just how absurd some of the takes were from his show. And to that point, we give him his credit, unlike what I get from him. So he likes to steal my material, my content. He can do that. Have at it. But I will give him credit whenever he comes up with original content. Unfortunately, his original content was something we had to criticize today.
I mean, and to quote the great Pete Sweeney, not everyone in this town should have mics, right?
Exactly.
So, next one from our guy, James T. Kirk. Final question. I absolutely love you guys' football knowledge, but how would you fix the NBA? The All-Star game was trash. Adam Silver needs your help as fans.
Well, I'm a big NBA fan, but Trevor is a bigger NBA fan. I think this is a question you should answer. I have a couple theories, a couple takes, but I want to hear Trevor's first.
Yeah, man. I mean, we're trying to force something to be competitive when it's not competitive. I mean, if all else fails, we all know what the safety net argument is here. We can just blame LeBron, right? Because that's what Stephen A. did. He blames LeBron for the slam dunk contest sucking now because he didn't partake in it. There's always that narrative you can use to blame LeBron because it's an easy one, and LeBron's not going to respond to because he knows it's a stupid take and whatever. It is what it is, and that's just tend to people's go-to. LeBron, is easy to blame here because he's not competitive in these games either. He's just out there having fun, and I think. Listen, on a serious note, though, that aside. I think they were on a good track with LeBron and KD being the captains and drafting their players. I thought that was a cool thing they were doing. They went away from that this year. I'm really not sure why. I just don't. I don't think it's worth it to the players, man. And I know they've tried to make it more of like a fun thing. This isn't just the NBA though. We can talk about the NFL Pro Bowl. It's all just fun and games.
Pro Bowl.
That's what I'm saying. They took the game completely away from it. And I think the NBA might just need to go that direction. I think that's the only real way to make this, because these guys don't. It's just not worth it to the players, man. At the end of the day, for me, if you're Luka, if you're Jokic, if you're Giannis, if you're any of these guys, you're Embiid, who already deals with injuries and stuff, you go out there and get hurt playing a very competitive game in the middle of the year. Early on part of the year, it doesn't make sense, man, to risk your body of that. I know everyone wants to talk about this modern day league is soft, but these guys are all trying to play for championships, and this league's never been more competitive as far as the talent pool goes. There's far more talent than any other generation of the NBA. I mean, you got guys riding the bench that can start in any era previous to this one.
Yep.
Klay Thompson's now coming off the bench because he's got guys superseding him. I don't really have an answer to how to fix it. I'm not paid to think of that. I don't have enough time to sit and think about how they can do it. But I think the NFL did the right thing by just taking the game basically completely away and making, having some flag football, doing some, goofy little games, trick shot stuff, and making it more of like just a fun weekend for these players to kind of, relax and showcase some of their unique talents. I think that's something, the NBA has done that obviously with the dunk contest, 3-point contest, skills challenge, and all that stuff. Those are all fun. I still enjoy that stuff, but the dunk contest is pretty lame. You got guys aren't even really in the league winning it consecutive years now in McClung, which that kid's incredible, and it's what he's great at. But I mean, I don't know. We got to get gimmicky with, no offense, this is not a shot, but like bringing in, WNBA players to compete with Steph Curry to make it interesting, it is what it is, but as far as the game goes, expecting this game to be competitive anymore is not fair to the players, and I think that narrative against the players and making them sound soft because they're not just out there having fun and goofing around is silly. Like, these guys are more worried about their body more than ever. Longevity is more of a thing more than ever. Guys in the 80s and 90s didn't really care about longevity. Legacy matters, and legacy is married to longevity for a lot of these guys, right? So, the overglorification of the tough era and the guys really going at it and being competitive. It's different now. Okay, the generation is different now. A lot of these guys are really close friends, and a lot of these guys that don't hate each other anymore. That had its time, and that time's passed. It is what it is. But I think finding a way to just take the game away in general, and finding ways to make it more fun and interesting for these guys to have fun. Makes more sense, but expecting this All-Star game just to be competitive again all of a sudden it's probably not going to happen for the foreseeable future, man.
There is not a single more romanticized sport in the world than basketball, in particular the NBA.
Yeah,
we have a problem, but it's not the problem people think it is. Because as Trevor just alluded to, this is not the same NBA anymore. Because every sport evolves for better or worse. Every sport evolves, every athlete evolves, and there has never been a more talented pool of individuals and teams, a collective, in the history of the NBA than we have right now. That's not so. There's clearly not a talent problem, a quality of product problem. What it is that people want the same thing from yesteryear. I was watching a movie last night. It's called Leave the World Behind. It's on Netflix. I recommend it. It's weird as shit. It's one of those like apocalyptic movies. I would recommend it. I think it's good. There's a scene where Julia Roberts is talking to this young girl, and I'm not going to tell you why they're in this situation. Ever you have to find out for yourself. But Julia Roberts' daughter is obsessed with the show Friends. Now, obviously, Julia Roberts' daughter set in present time wasn't around when Friends was around. She's watching it on her streaming service. And she's talking about how her daughter's mad because like all the systems are down. You can't watch anything on your tablets, phones, everything like that. And the girl Ruth is talking to Julia Roberts. She's like, talking about why her daughter's so obsessed with the show, and she, talking about the good times and reflecting on good times. And this girl Ruth says, I mean, I watched it too, but it's almost nostalgic for a time that never existed. And I think that's what we're dealing with in the NBA. Is that people are so caught up in a time that never really existed. Because if we really went back, I don't think people would be like, if you took NBA from 25 years ago, 30 years ago, and played it live right now, people would not like it.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't fit our society.
The attention spans are different.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And today we have so many more things to do and so many other entertainments to cling on to, no matter where you live. It doesn't matter anymore. Remember, back in the day, when we were kids, like, if you live in California, man, you don't have to. The reason why the attendances are down for San Diego Chargers is because you have the fucking beach right there.
Yeah.
Like, that's not a world anymore. You can live in Kansas City and have tons of entertainment to utilize where the NBA kind of drops down a peg. It doesn't matter how good the league is. And to be honest with you guys, when it comes to all-star games, when it comes to dunk contests, can we just cut the shit for 5 minutes? The All-Star game, the All-Star week is the VCR of sports. It's outdated. It's irrelevant. Because we see All-Stars on our TV and everything we do, everything we watch. All-Stars. NFL players, they're all on every single commercial. We have so much access to stars now that it doesn't mean the same as it did back then. This is why we talk about the mythicism of Michael Jordan in the 90s Bulls. Because we didn't know these guys.
And
we only heard boom, 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 boom,
Yeah.
the music coming on, introducing, and all of a sudden, holy shit, I'm losing my mind. It's Michael Jordan and the Bulls. That's because that's all you got. Now we have Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and Twitch and all these other TikToks, all these things where we have constant access to all-stars. So when we see them all on the court, it isn't this holy shit moment anymore. It's like, oh yeah, that's Luka Doncic taking on, Donovan Mitchell, and there's LeBron James and Steph Curry still being great in their mid to late 30s. Like, it's no longer that anymore. It's no longer that's the main thing. So when it comes to the dunk contest, guys, can we be honest for a second? There are no more dunks to do.
This is my problem with the overglorification of this stuff in the past too.
Yeah.
Go watch those old dunk contests when rookie Kobe and MJ in his prime years,
Carter's.
Dominique Wilkins. None of those dunks were that special, guys. No. They were special then because we've
never seen them before.
Well, yeah, and it wasn't an oversaturated generation like it is now. You can go online. There are literally YouTubers that are and TikTok stars that are doing way more incredible dunks than anybody in the NBA. It's oversaturation.
Why do you think
I saw a TikToker have a better dunk than that? This is the NBA.
Why do you think a guy?
Why do you think LeBron doesn't want to waste his time?
Yeah, why do you think a guy that's not even in the league has won back-to-back dunking contests?
Right.
That's my point, guys. Is that there are no more original dunks to do because the human body only has so many things it can accomplish, and that's why they're having to dunk over Shaq and dunk over Twitch streamers and all these weird ass gimmicks. Yeah. That's why it became a gimmick. Because they have no more, you can't just do a 360 dunk anymore and go, oh, the tens.
Bro, imagine.
We've seen it.
This is not a shot at MJNL. When his free throw dunk was awesome. It was legendary. But imagine if MJ was doing that in the social media era.
That's what I'm saying.
And there are white men dunking from the free throw line on TikTok right now. I'm just saying, dude, like if you put that oversaturation of social media and TikTok and all this stuff that's going on right now, which would be direct comparison, and MJ did that dunk, I'd be like, oh wow,
go look
nice.
At something like Jordan's greatest highlights.
Yeah,
you're seeing Anthony Edwards
Dominique Wilkins,
do that on a weekly basis.
Yeah, Sean Kemp, any of these guys.
No offense, like they're great plays. Like remember when the up and under against the Magic in the finals, or I'm sorry, Magic the Magic's Lakers.
Yeah.
When Michael goes up and then goes under and does it, everyone's like, oh my God, what a great play. Dude, we see that every night now.
Yeah.
So, but because of the context of when it happened.
Shit, Dr. J was in before MJ, yeah.
It's so glorified. It's so mythicized because back then that's what we had. Was these are our entertainers.
Or it's like you place AI in today's generation playing basketball right now. AI wouldn't be standing out nearly as much as he did in the early 90s, bro.
And that's so ironic you say that because AI and Shaq were just on a podcast, and he said that he would average 43 points per game this year. Dude, you understand how dishonest that take is? It doesn't even make sense because per possession,
AI was so inefficient, man. I love AI, but he was so inefficient.
They had more opportunities to score back then than they do now. They have more possessions.
Yep.
It's not even. This is what I'm
Pacing
saying.
is
People don't even
different.
pay attention
Yeah.
because look at James Harden. James Harden's an inefficient player. Was shooting just as much as AI. The most he ever averaged in a single season was 36.
Right.
So you're talking about AI would average 7 more points per game, even though he was known to be a terrible 3-point shooter. Michael Jordan would average 40s.
He was a volume shooter.
Exactly. And James Harden was actually a good 3-point shooter for the majority of his career.
Oh, yeah.
So he couldn't get to 43
Right.
while shooting 3-pointers and getting 15 free throws a game when they had to change the rules for James Harden or change the rules because of James Harden.
Yeah.
He still couldn't do it. But you're telling me AI is going to do it. No. It's what I'm saying is, Trevor, the problem we have is people still cling on to what was back then without even knowing what it actually was. And trying to make today's game into something negative. They're not being honest with what they're watching. Instead of enjoying what you're seeing, instead of enjoying the fact that Steph Curry and LeBron James, even in their latter years, are still so goddamn great. Kevin Durant, still so goddamn great. We're sitting here talking and complaining about how they don't play defense, but I can pull up 150 clips from 1995 where guys are not playing defense and Michael Jordan just scoring all over them.
And against the most simple concepts on offense.
I'm saying, man.
Guys did not even know how to play ISO. They didn't know how to defend a one-on-one. They had to play the 3-2 or the 2-3 zone. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, man. Playing defense nowadays is far more complicated. I mean, you're going against the talent of offense is insane.
And the reason why scoring looks so much easier today is because there's so many better scorers on the court.
It's not even close, man. And another thing too about the All-Star thing and all that, and how many snubs we got every year, because there's an overwhelming amount of talent in today's league. There's always going to be snubs.
Yes.
It's so much harder to stand out in today's league. You know what I mean? Like, with so much talent. I mean, you put Gilgeous-Alexander back in the 90s and watch that dude just go crazy. He would immediately be a superstar.
Yeah.
And he's like maybe the 12th best player overall in the league today. Yeah. Top 12, probably.
Maybe another 7-footer that played 25, 30 years ago that's as talented as Wembanyama.
Bro.
Or Kevin Durant.
I mean, you put Jokic in any generation,
Kevin Durant,
people be freaking out.
That's what I'm saying.
People be freaking out.
Like Sabonis' father, Zydrunas, not Zydrunas, but
Arvydas Sabonis.
Arvydas Sabonis, thank you. He was considered like this good stretch 5. That dude averaged like 11, 12 points per game.
His son already has like 35 more triple-doubles than he ever had in his career.
Insane, dude.
And Sabonis,
come on, guys.
Yeah, and Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox, neither one were All-Stars this year.
And Sabonis,
you put those two guys. You put those two guys in the '90s, bro.
I'm saying, bro. Like,
and they're both kind of throwback players
too. Old heads
too.
be lying, bro. Like our guy Nick Wright always says, old heads be lying about this.
It's true, man, and I get it. They want that's their bread and butter. It's just the same thing with like music and things like that. People, granted, music there's a little bit more factualness to that because a lot of music nowadays is lazy. But either way, man, there's no fixing the All-Star game. It's just adjusting to the times.
Let's be honest about it.
Yes. And what
the All-Star game is irrelevant. It's the VCR.
Right, man. Yep. Yeah. So, last question, and I saved it for last from our guy Shaggy Shane. Will you guys be doing a Chatting Up the Chiefs Super Bowl wrap-up with Von Booker? I missed it. Did you guys do it?
We didn't do it. That was a decision on my behalf because of the fact that Trevor and I were with family. The game was so tense, and we had a lot of people around. We wanted to celebrate. I'll be honest with you, in a moment like that, I'm not going to be in a place to where I want to sit down and talk about the game. I want to sit there and just enjoy, because I'll be real with you guys.
Bathe in it.
This was such a difficult season.
Yeah.
And there was very few fun games this year. Like, everybody talks about, like, wasn't that game fun in the Super Bowl? No. That game was not fun at all. That game was fucking stressful.
Yeah.
Like, don't lie to yourself, guys. That was
not
a fun game.
First half sucked.
It was not a fun game.
First half was awful.
Unnecessarily stressful game, guys. This season was so stressful. So when the game was over, Trevor and I are freaking out, celebrating everything like that, and I just kind of like sat down. Remember, Trevor, when I sat at the table, I just kind of sat there. I'm like, man, I need a breath. Like, this was taxing, man. And our guy Book was with family as well. He's had a lot of things going on in his life, so I wasn't trying to put it all together and do that. Will we reconvene and talk about this at a later date? Probably. But we'll have Book on the show here, and we'll talk about that and stuff like that. I'm going to be doing some Starcade stuff on the sides. We got some other projects that we're going to announce later on. But the point is that I felt like that was a time for us to just kind of enjoy it with the people we were around, because it's memories. And I'm just going to be real with you guys. Winning Super Bowls, our dad being there, our brothers, our nieces, nephews, Trevor's kids. Like,
yep.
It's just something that I just wanted to hold on to. If that's all right with you guys. I hope you guys understand. Like, we love providing content for you guys, but I felt that was a time for us to kind of be selfish.
Yeah, we need that moment.
We needed that moment to just kind of enjoy that night. And we did, man. We lived it up, and I know a lot of you guys did too. So I hope you guys understand why we didn't do that.
All right, well, that is it for the Speak It segment.
Great time, guys. We really appreciate every single one of you guys that joined in and chimed in today. We really appreciate all the contributions that you guys do every single week. We're back in the swing of things. It's the off season. I hope you guys are ready for more off season conversations to be had, because trust me when I say they will be had. Trevor, we have one more order of business to get to. What is it called?
Hold this L.
Each and every episode, we finish off every single episode with a series of L's in the world of sports. Whether those L's are friendly or not so friendly L's in the world of sports, we promise you, whoever is holding those L's in the world of sports deserve those L's in the world of sports. Trevor Tweedwell, who's holding the L?
All right, man. Well, hey, we spent a good solid couple hours here talking about the Chiefs and how this season was incredible, back-to-back championships, and then all this this hyped up talk via Patrick Mahomes, Veach, everybody talking about getting that three-peat, but there seems to be some obstacles possibly in the road here to that third championship, and one of those obstacles might be in our own division, right? And there might be some challenges ahead, based off of what they've been telling everybody and based on what's on certain podcasts. And there is a certain podcast called The Rush with Max Crosby, who's a guy that I love, even though he is a Raider. Very few times in my life have I really liked a Raider player, but this guy is just one. He's a real one.
Yeah.
I like him a lot. He's a competitor. He brings the best out of Patrick Mahomes. So I appreciate those kind of guys that bring out the best of Patrick Mahomes. And he's gotten the better of Patrick Mahomes a couple of times too, because he is that great of a player. But his coach that he vouched for, Antonio Pierce, who was a solid player throughout his career as well, and did a good job as an interim coach for the Raiders when Josh McDaniels was gone, or let go, if you will. He had some things to say about the possibility of facing or the reality of facing Patrick Mahomes and moving forward, and what it's going to look like facing him down the road as the new head coach of the Raiders on that podcast. And I'm sure a lot of you guys, it was making its rounds everywhere. I'm sure a lot of you guys heard it, but I'm going to go ahead and play this for you guys real quick.
So you remember when Jordan got the Jordan rules, and I'm calling it out from now on, as long as I'm here, the Patrick Mahomes rules. So you remember when Jordan was going through it with the Pistons, all those guys in the 80s before he came, Michael Jordan and Air Jordan, the Pistons used to whoop his. Anytime he came to the home, elbows, feeling them, love taps. We touched them. We in the head, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. I'm touching you. So I showed those guys, Jordan getting his whooped. Boom, boom.
So it's fitting that we basically ended the show talking about the 90s basketball and all those things, and the Jordan rules with the Detroit Pistons, laying basically clotheslining Jordan anytime he got to try to get to the rack. The legendary Jordan rules. We all saw The Last Dance. We all saw that stuff. How that worked out and didn't work out for the Pistons in the long run. The short term, it did. First of all, flattered. He's calling Patrick Mahomes Jordan. That's flattering. I mean, I'm sure Patrick Mahomes appreciates that compliment. But to compare yourself, for one, this is just like a joke inside of the joke here. I'm assuming he thinks that the Raiders are the bad boy Pistons. The two-time champ, Isaiah Thomas, and multiple Hall of Famers on that team, and that they're going to have that similar kind of effect that they're going to bring the fight to Patrick Mahomes, like the Detroit Pistons, who were already champs before MJ was even a thing, and Patrick Mahomes sitting here with 3 rings already. If anybody's the bad boys, we are Jordan and the bad boys. I'm confused here. And also on top of that, earlier in that show, he talked about having the formula to beating the Chiefs, as the formula being the way that they beat the Chiefs in that last game, in that matchup against the Raiders on Christmas Day. I'm just gonna. There's a tweet here from Warren Sharp that I always appreciated. Chiefs versus Raiders recent history: Chiefs win 35-31. Chiefs win 41-14. Chiefs win 48-9. Chiefs win 31-13. Chiefs win 1-17. The final game on Christmas Day, the anomaly: Chiefs lose 14-20. Las Vegas defense scores 2 return touchdowns. And he ends it with, quote, unquote, quote, "We have found the receipt to beat the Chiefs," end quote. So you need your quarterback, whichever quarterback that's going to be. That's going to be Aiden O'Connell going into the year. Good luck with that. To have 0 completions in the second half, and your defense to score 2 scoring touchdowns against Patrick Mahomes, and him having arguably his worst game of his career. Okay, I mean, if you think that's the formula, and you're going to put out some blueprint for some other teams, oh yeah, just go score 2 defensive touchdowns. Let Patrick Mahomes be awful for a game. Their defense basically do everything they can. Aiden O'Connell to jack nothing. Completed like 7 passes in that game.
He had no completions for the final 3 quarters.
I mean, do you think that's the formula, Mr. Antonio Pierce? And good luck to you with your bad boys over there in Vegas. By the way, we did. I don't know if he noticed. I'm sure he did. I'm hoping he noticed. We just won a Super Bowl in his stadium, the Bad Boys Raiders Stadium.
Thank you for the amenities.
Before they even hosted or even played a playoff game under his regime in that stadium. So, I mean, it feels good. That feels good to have that on top of him as well as already being 3-time champs, even though he's the bad boys bringing the fight to us. Okay, good luck on that formula moving forward, sir. You were a hell of a player, and I got respect for you. Andy Reid thanked you for that spanking because we used that energy to go win a Super Bowl while you're sitting at home on your couch watching that, coming up with this formula that you have there. So good luck. I can't wait for these matchups. Looking forward to it. But in the meantime, I just want to throw a sidebar in there as well. Max Crosby, when he was saying this, I don't know if you watched his face in that interview. Max Crosby, it felt like he was kind of cringing a little bit when he was saying all that shit because he knows he's going to be the one that has to have to go out there. Yeah, I think even Broussard on First Things First was mentioning that too. He's like, yeah, I was kind of watching his body language as well. He's like, shit, coach, you really I got to be the guy to go deliver that bad boy shit. And if we don't live up to it, this is going to be a shit sandwich to eat here. So for that, Damian Pierce, Max Crosby, unfortunately, catching strays, buddy. The Las Vegas Raiders, do me a solid favor and hold this L. My ass.
My L is in a way similar to Trevor's, but it's for a guy that I've already toe tagged a couple of times. I'm not going to play video because the videos are too damn long. But our guys over at Chief Concerns posted a new edition of what I put out there when it comes to our lovely buddy from the herd, Jason McIntyre. McIntyre has how would I say this, Trevor, put out an abundance of receipts.
We are McIntyred.
Yeah, we are McIntyred of his bullshit. And our guys over at Chief Concerns put together a really good video montage along with my old videos that I've had for McIntyre for quite a while. And the beautiful thing about it is instead of just owning up to what McIntyre has said about the Chiefs, about how no one said that they weren't going to win last year, even though I put together a 6-minute video of people of reputable sources saying that they were going to finish last in the division and not win the division and not win the Super Bowl. Videos of him calling out and saying that they were going to lose to the Ravens 36-17. That Brock Purdy was going to beat them in the Super Bowl. Like all these different things he's put out there, just wrong every single damn time. Instead of just saying, you know what? Hey, Chiefs fans, you guys got me. That's what happens. We all get got. It happens. No, he just starts going on a blocking spree. And I love when grown men can't handle the heat that they created. It's like me starting a fire in my living room and then it starts swinging fists at the firemen.
It's like that Andre... what's his name?
When he shoots the dude. Yeah, when he shoots what's his face? Hannibal. What is his name?
Hannibal Buress.
Hannibal Buress. Yeah, he shoots him right, and he's like, "What? Why did he die? What the fuck?" That's you're creating your own storm
Eric Andre,
and getting mad that you don't have an umbrella. It just doesn't make any sense. Just handle the noise, bro. You're a national platform. You can't take it. When the only thing that's being recited is the shit you put out there. No one forced you to do it. Yeah. Your co-host Colin Cowherd even tried to get you to stop, and you wouldn't do it. You just kept jamming the lever, dude. So for that, Jason McIntyre, this offseason is going to be a long one for you, brother. I know you're already saying that the Chiefs are going to lose early in the first round next year. We cannot wait for more receipts because apparently you're tripling down, not doubling down. You're tripling down. But in the meantime, you can do a favor and triple down on this. You do me a favor and
hold this L.
I do want to put out this real quick, a W. I wanted to end the show on a high mark. I touched on it lightly last week. This is the reason why we didn't do a show, but I want to give a W to Kansas City as a whole, but in particular our mayor, Quentin Lucas, and the police force, the paramedics, the firemen, everybody that was involved to put this to bed. The heroes, the two men that tackled the kid with the gun.
Yeah.
Their families, as far as I'm concerned, should never have to pay for another drink, another meal, another ticket to a game for the rest of their lives because they risked theirs to save others. And this is a really shitty time. Trevor, I know you didn't get to really expand on it. I don't know if you have any thoughts you want to put out there or not. But more than anything, I wanted to throw a W out there because I don't want to come back on this show a week later and act like nothing happened. I want people to know where we stand. You guys know where I stand. I was very brutally honest. It was about a 19-minute video last week that I put out there. It's below this video if you want to check it out. It was very emotional for me. I was trying to hold it all together. It just happened that day, so it was a lot. But I had a fire in my chest. I had to tell you guys how I felt about it. Trevor wasn't there. I told Trevor ahead of time, I'm going to make this video, man. Like, I hope you understand. He was in total support of it. But I don't want my opinions to just reflect directly Trevor's. But, if you have something you want to add to that, brother, you feel free. I don't know if you do or not, but
no, not necessarily. I don't want to go too much on that. I think we've, are still a grieving city right now, and I do agree with you. It is, thankful that for the first responders and all the people that were ready to, pounce on any situation that took place. And it's unfortunate that we have another senseless, violent act. Unfortunately, it's in my city. Yeah. And, the Lopez Galvin family, my condolences to them. Lisa was a very well beloved and loved person in this community. What she did for, she was very well known. Parties, doing the DJ thing and being a radio host, and just her father with the Guadalupe Center. I know a lot of people that know her. Yep. A lot of people that are in my family know her. Yep. I met her a couple times. Don't know her that well, but I've been around where she was around. Always a bubbly person. Has 2 kids, and it's just a tragic loss that things like that. That are supposed to be meant for good memories, and anytime we look back on this back-to-back Super Bowl championship parade, it's gonna be tainted forever, and that's very unfortunate because of a couple bad actors, and we have a problem in this country. And if people don't want to admit it, the truth sounds like hate to those who hate the truth, and yeah, we got a lot of work to do in this country, man. I don't like that my daughter has to do drills at school and has to know how to deal with these situations at any given moment. That's not fun for me as a father, for me to worry about my daughter being in a crowd anywhere at any time. So yeah, we definitely have issues going on, and we need things fixed. And for those of you who disagree with it, you can have that opinion. That's fine. But facts trump opinions and feelings every single time. Yeah, that's about all I have really to say about that, man.
And shout out to all the donators as well. I've already posted links to our social media platforms where you can donate to the families. It goes directly to the families, to the people that have suffered loss. 11 children were suffered violence because of this as well. Luckily, all of them survived and are now out of hospital care. But this impacts their lives forever, and impacts people's lives that weren't shot as well. People that were just at the parade, like Trevor said, this is going to be remembered in infamy, unfortunately. And also, man, I know it sounds silly, but you know what? I want to say thank you to Taylor Swift.
Yeah, man.
She gave $100,000 when she was across the world doing her Eras tour. And I don't know this woman. I'm not trying to heap praise on a billionaire woman who could easily do that. I'm saying the fact that she really is one of us here in Kansas City.
She left a personal message attached to it and everything, which was pretty cool, man.
Gave 2 different $50,000 donations to this when she didn't have to do any of that.
Yeah.
And I just think it's a powerful statement. I think it's a great example, because we're always looking for great examples. We love to shit on people when they're bad examples. Why don't we start praising people when they're good examples? I think she's a good example for young women in this country where they can say, hey, you know what? If I ever achieve greatness like she has, I want to have a heart like that too. And I think that was very powerful for her to do that. Like I said, when she didn't have to spend a dime of her own money, and she did that. So shout out to her. Shout out to everybody that's donated, whether it was $1, whatever you guys have. You guys did it, man. Shout out to you guys as well. A big W for our city. Sucks this happened. Sucks that we had to go through this, but we are a resilient bunch, and I hope that, because it isn't just a Kansas City problem, it's an America problem, and I hope our country can finally start having some bipartisanship and start talking about these things and try to find a real resolve as opposed to fighting over things and pulling away from the conversation. Let's try to get and meet in the middle somewhere, kind of like the Chiefs and Chris Jones are. Let's meet in the damn middle, man. Let's get some shit done. Let's be better for it. So for that, Thank you guys so much for being back with us this week. We have missed the hell out of you guys. It was an absolute fun show, and I hope you guys enjoyed as well as we do. We will be back in 1 week's time to talk more football, discuss more things you guys want to talk about. But in the meantime, for Trevor Twidwell, for the great Clay Windler who puts all this together, Red Tribe Cinema, go check out his new video, guys. I'm Lance Twidwell. Shout out to DMAC as well for the Kingdom Cast and Tell the Truth podcast. Go check them out as well. I'm Lance Twidwell. Episode 256 of the Spoken Podcast done, finished, and finito. And until we're back here in 1 week's time for episode 257 to talk about whatever the hell's going on in this offseason, because it's about to get crazy, guys. League year's going to be before we know it. Draft's going to be here before we know it. Football's going to be back before we know it. But until then, we're going to be talking about whatever the hell we want to talk about. Until then, we out of this bitch.
Later.